Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 167 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. As always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, the Daywalker, Lord Cognito. We're doing the show a little earlier today. How are you, good sir?
Doing good. Kicking it early.
Yes,
Got
sir.
Representing the Warang today. Tekken 8. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
talk
I
about
got
that a
my
lot again
flamingo.
today.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready. A little early. But yeah, we got to do things. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I've been busy, but taking care of the health stuff, feeling better. Got some more clarity. Shout out to LSM community. Shout out to the Rum of the Dukes. They actually hit me up. Got some feedback in reference to my last statement, in reference where I went very extreme and I was like, hey, I'm gonna get rid of the creatine. You know what I'm saying? So I actually got a second opinion. And because I usually go for my monthly rheumatologist checkup, check the inflammation level with the joints and make sure I'm good. So yeah, he was like, you're actually got good advice, because he said a lot of primary doctors overreact when they see creatinine a little slightly elevated in the body. And they're like, it's too much creatine or whatever. And they were like, no, as a person like yourself, you're a big guy, you work out. He was like, that's normal. He told me the specific stats that you're supposed to look at in the blood. And he was like, I also look at this for your inflammation level as far as your rheumatoid. He was like, everything else, no. He's like, you get back on the creatine. I was like, all right, cool. Creatine's back, baby. So shout out to LSM. I got like 3 DMs. People hit me up. They were like, yo, I'm a lifter. Don't stress out with it, because primary might not be as educated. What you realize is that all doctors are not created equal. And I'm the type of person, I listen to my doctor. My doctor says, I'm all right. We ain't doing it no more. Yep. So all is good. The creatine will be slowly coming back.
Yeah, I hear you. Actually, for my chronic swaying, I want to get a second opinion, because I didn't like the doctor I had seen at all. Like, he just seemed very detached from the issue, kind of a lot of guesswork. So yeah, I hear you. And it's good you got a second opinion.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
Yeah, for
how you be?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's first time I'm going to be traveling by plane in like 5 years tomorrow.
Doing it.
Yeah, gonna give it a shot. Short flight, 2 hours. We're going to North Carolina for our anniversary, Laylee and I. So
it's our anniversary.
Yeah, 6 years. How about that? I managed to pull that off. Crazy.
Woo!
I know.
Is this the new? It's the 6-year hairstyle. Like, this the new joint now. You got some new joint going on. I like it.
We'll see when I come back for year 7. But yeah, this is what I'll be rocking there. But I'm excited. I'm also a little nervous. I won't lie, just because I've finally battled back a lot of my symptoms. And it's not perfect. Like, I still deal with it mostly day to day, but it's not as aggressive. And so now that I'm getting some regularity, I'm nervous. I'm going to fuck it all up. But I have to find out. Like, I have to. Because I've read online, like, some of it is psychological. And, when you get out and you just get a little more, I put in quotes, brave with it, you realize you're better than it. You're stronger than it. And some of it is trying to think of the term, but like where it's more in your head than the actual symptom occurring. So point being, is I'm excited for the trip, slightly nervous though. Deciding right now what my game is going to be on the go, because I'm going to PAX East the following weekend. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be on the road twice in 2 weeks. That's exciting. I have a 2-hour flight both ways. All right, like, what game do I want to bring? It's not too long, not too short. I've considered the double dip into Tekken. I've considered just starting a Fallout 3 playthrough. I've considered New Vegas playthrough, KOTOR playthrough. I'm like, do I play something new but shorter? I'm still figuring it out. I don't know. It's literally going to come down to the wire. Is what's going to happen. The easy choice, if I could, would be to lug my PS5 with me and just play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because that's the game I want to finish. It's not done yet. But that's just a pain in the ass. I don't want to bring that through the airport and everything. So
bringing that big berth to do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm figuring all of that out right now. But it's exciting to have these thoughts again, because I have not traveled in so long on plane. So
no, I feel you, brother. What I would highly recommend is remember when I had my near life or death experience with the liver biopsy and I had the panic attack.
Yeah.
One of the greatest advices I've ever gotten in that moment when I was literally about to lose it was one of the nurse practitioners or whatever, and she said, "Look at me," and she told me it. Now I've learned out what it was. It's called the 4-7-8 breathing technique for anxiety. The minute you're at your point, okay, I can't do it. I'm going to freak out. I'm on a plane, maybe, whatever you're going through. So basically you put your tongue behind the front teeth of your mouth.
Okay. And
then you hold 1, 2, 3, 4, your breath, then slowly exhale. Then again, hold. So the key is that tongue touching the back of the teeth, the front teeth. And just research. You can put it 4-7-8. I'm telling you, bro, that saves me every time I'm in the hospital. That saves me anytime I'm in that worst anxiety feel or my claustrophobic feel, like I'm in the coffin. When remember I told you they had me in there, they threw me out there.
Oh, she was teaching you yoga. I'm looking like this is common in yoga. Interesting.
Yeah, bro, it's great for anxiety, man. And I guess it's the holding of the breath and the slow. It's something about the tongue touching that back of the teeth with that holding. It does calm you down. Yeah. So
I remember you bringing it up before, but
that's my little bro. I gave that woman a hug. I was like, oh, you saved me. I was like, y'all getting 5 stars in a review. I was like, bro, it was Creole. Because I'll never forget. I thought I was just gonna go do a regular, what they call it, with the MRI style joint. Yeah. And then they pull me out, and he had the tools right there. He ready to cut me open. I said, oh. So that's when the freak out. Then you strapped in, and they got me.
Yeah. Terrifying, bro. I hear you. Yeah. That's good to know, though, because I was always fine on planes, but I always dealt with like motion sensitivity. Like I'd get off the plane, and like that first day, I'd always feel like I'm still, like if I was laying on my back. I remember E3 2016, I was like laying on my back in the hotel room, and I could feel like the plane just still going left and right a little bit. So it's tough, but then it would go away, right? That's when I was normal. Now I'm a little older, and so these things hang with you longer. And so we're gonna see. I've read online there are people who are like, "Oh, the plane fixed me. Like I got off the plane, I like never had an issue again because of the pressure in the inner ear." I don't know. So we'll see.
It would pop mine. So I would have to figure that I would hold my nose, bro, to unpop. And then my only thing is like, I just need, I hate the feeling of like heat and being claustrophobic. So what I do is have the air on me. Get that air, get that on you. Get your little things that relaxes you. But I think you got it. But it's good that you're doing it because you need to know.
Yeah.
And get
it's
that
like the perfect trip.
2-3 hours.
Flight. You're not, like you're not there too long. Like even if it's miserable, I'm off the plane quick. And, that's good. So plus it's just me and Laylee. So I feel comfortable with that.
No doubt.
So that's what's going on. That's why we're recording a little earlier, still on Wednesday, but maybe like 5 hours earlier than we usually do because I got to drop the dogs off at the parents' place. But for those of you who are just interested in gaming content, you want to know what we're doing here, patreon.com/laststandmedia. You can support us over there. Early ad-free access to Defining Duke goes live on Thursdays. Otherwise, we hit free feeds on Sunday. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Shout out to Spotify, our mobile partners. Been trying to grow the mobile side of things, and I have not checked if we got any new reviews. We got one new review, so we're going to read that. I love this name. Ready?
What's the name?
The Rap Guy.
Shout out to the Rap Guy.
Shout out to the Rap Guy.
Hip hop connoisseur.
Yes, I love that. The Rap Guy writes, the Premier Games podcast. I haven't had a console since the DS, but Game Pass on PC brought me into the realm of the Dukes. I'm truly grateful for the both of you broadening my horizons. Thank you, Cog, for getting me into As Dusk Falls and your artsy-fartsy compendium of adventure puzzle games. And thank you, Matty, for introducing me to games like Persona and Danganronpa. I foolishly ignored Japanese and turn-based games, yet now they've become my absolute, or some of my absolute favorites. Never give up your integrity, Dukes. DD is genuinely special. Have a "you just watched me rap Elder Scrolls 6 while Redfall 2 gets its own console" kind of day.
That's good. I like that one. Salute.
Thank you. Thank you for the mobile reviews. There was only one. We were trying to bother you all for some more, so get on it. Helps the mobile side of things. That's where we're trying to grow in all seriousness. So we appreciate you lifting us up a level. We have some write-ins here from patreon.com/lastnamemedia. Let's start off with a laugh. Sean Mason writes, "Hey Dukes, every Tuesday, a student at school I teach comes on the announcements and gives a video game report. Sean Mason goes to the most interesting school, right? Like you have this hardcore gamer as your teacher. Like I've had to do, like I did like a presentation for him one time for his class because I guess they were doing like a career day, which was pretty cool. Yeah, and like there's a ton of people in his classes that are always interested in games. Now he's got kids giving game reports over the mic. Like this is an interesting school that you're attending here.
All right.
This 16-year-old usually favors his news towards Fortnite or Nintendo, but yesterday, I kid you not, this is what he said, quote, Xbox is done making exclusive games. According to sources, everything is coming to Nintendo, including Halo and Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox is dead. Nintendo has won, end quote. I couldn't help but let out a laugh when I heard this. Best, Sean M. So yeah, if there was any certainty that Xbox as we know it is dead, this is it right here. The youth has given up and the announcement has been made. Cog, your thoughts?
When you get that PA report over the loudspeaker, you know it's official from the kids.
It always starts with word of mouth, man.
Word of mouth. It's funny because it's
the Xbox way of doing things.
Back in my day, it was the console war with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo and stuff like that. Now we didn't have the rights to get on the damn speaker and announce it to the thing. So it's funny how things have changed and popularized, but it's hilarious. It's funny to see how youth perceive things. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know how we act. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of life.
Nevitz is our other right in here. Hey, Dukes, just want to know your past with Rooster Teeth content. I haven't viewed their content in years, but I did love Red versus Blue when it was starting out, even though I knew next to nothing about Halo. Shout out to my middle school friends. Our group got together and put all the current episodes on every computer in our computer lab to spread awareness. Remember, this was in like 2004 when we were downloading these as QuickTime video files. Have a good one, Dukes. So yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I guess, Rooster Teeth is shutting down, and they have been on the platform since its very inception, with real iconic series, Red versus Blue being one of them, Achievement Hunter being another, and many others. So I thought it was just a good time to reflect it, because for me, like, I loved hunting down trophies and achievements, and Achievement Hunter was really my first place of finding that community and going like, oh, there are people who love this meta game here. And that was in, I think, middle school. And I used to watch them a ton until I found like other sites that I think did it a little better, but they were like the originators in my eyes. I don't know if that's actually correct, but like they were the ones who did it first. And so that's my strongest memory of them. I haven't watched them in years and years and years. I fell off all of that stuff, but Cog, do you have any memories with Rooster Teeth? You've been around a little longer than I.
Yeah, not as much, but Red versus Blue especially, because when Halo was all the rage, it was all like it. Just seeing them use their voiceovers over the characters in the game environments in Blood Gulch and the Halo 1 maps, it was just absolutely hilarious. So it was, shout out to him remembering QuickTime video files. Man, it's the days before really YouTube, and I probably watched them all up to the Xbox One a little bit, and then I fell off after that. But I remember the Machinima app was part of something that you could kind of snap on to the Xbox One, and you could watch the content on the side. One of the innovative features of the Xbox One, even though
did Rooster Teeth own Machinima?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh man, that's a huge throwback. Yeah, that was like when I was doing COD videos. Like if you had the Machinima the like logo at the bottom of your videos, like that meant you were official.
Oh, he's official. Like that was the partner to get. Yeah. So that's what I remember. But yeah, storied history, obviously unfortunate what happened. That's a legacy. That's a legacy gone. But it's unfortunate that it just kind of spiraled out. It looks like ownership changed hands for a while. Then it went up to WB, all the way up to WB. So yeah, end of an era, y'all. End of an era. Rooster Teeth, man. Salute.
Absolutely. All right, Cog, let's get into some news before we begin. Relatively slow week as of this point in time. I think we were due for one, just given how rapid fire things have been for the last few months. So definitely more of a calm before the storm here. We'll start off with a continuation from one of last week's stories. Pentiment's frame rate. It is now matching PS5s at 120 FPS following a bug fix. So Cog, you can enjoy Andreas Mahler running around in 120 frames, every single step perfectly painted out. Gonna notice a huge difference, my friend. Are you gonna fire this one up because of the update?
Listen, man, it's about time justice was served. I told y'all this was nothing for a lot of people, but they were like, they really was on it. They were like, yo, like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? And but if you want all the glory of Andres Mahler, reading those scriptures at 120 hertz, shout out, salute to our mans, Joshua in the realm of the Dukes, who did say it was a bug, and I believed them. So, they got that sorted. So hopefully the parody rumor stuff can be over with. But yeah, I've done everything I had to do at Pentiment. But salute to everyone who's playing it for the first time, and salute to a lot of Switch people. I'm seeing like it's getting a lot of high reviews. And again, one of my themes might be for this episode is like it is interesting to see this strategy and some of the after effects, right? And so I'm gonna the short term is like, oh, these games are actually pretty good. Oh, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to see how this translates, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I don't know if Pentiment is going to be this big seller, but as far as critically acclaimed, we've all said that was a great story.
Yeah, Pentiment, I hope it does well on Switch specifically because I think it's a really great game for that system. It's graphic novel kind of beat, and it's just also a really underrated game. I'm not underrated, but under-discussed game for how good it is. Just super well made, super well put together, not that long. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it if they give it a shot. And I'm excited to check it out on Switch when I get my copy from Limited Run.
Yeah, that's right. You get the limited joint. Salute.
Yeah. All right. We have Peter Moore interview up next, Cog. There was a pretty big conversation surrounding this one because it was put out by IGN and then made the rounds. And Peter Moore's, among many things, the main talking point was suggesting that at one point Xbox feared the end of consoles as early as the 360 generation while he was there, and suggested as well that Xbox may be mulling over that very same topic right now, especially because it's far more prevalent and feels like more of an inevitability. I know you've had the privilege of interviewing Peter Moore in the past, and him combined with Sean Layden, they've seemed to be quite clairvoyant. Their experience has served them well in making predictions of where things are trending, even if they're relatively, well, Sean Layden's still involved, but Peter Moore is still out of the industry, but he seems finger on the pulse of where things are going. So I feel these are words to be listened to closely at the very least. What did you make of what your man, the GOAT, had to say?
The legend, man, Liverpool's own. It's always a pleasure to hear him, come out and speak. He's just so knowledgeable. He's been on all sides of the spectrum, successful console, a console that has gone away, third party, so EA. So he's seen it all, owning a football club. It is interesting because he even said during the 360 era that they were mulling, hey, is this the end of console? Because people have to understand when you're a console manufacturer, you don't get a lot of return literally on the hardware. So you have to make it up in the software. So it's such a sunken cost kind of in the beginning. And then you're just kind of making stuff up. And that's the thing, the decision you have to make every 8 to 10 years or whatever. But they were talking about it back then. So basically what I get from this is that you never can predict when it will end, but you need to be prepared if it ends. And I think that's the reason. He's like, in his mind, he thinks Phil and the team, they're mulling it, right? Because again, we talked about that console bubble, right? How it's not getting any bigger. How even Phil himself said, the only way to grow it is if you either over monetize it, the same people, even harder, or you go get new people outside that space, whether it be PC, other platforms, or what have you, to grow it. So you got that thing on them. And then he made a good point about, the hardcore. He actually, I'm so proud of myself. He mimicked something I've been saying for the longest, which was,
let's go.
Hardcore gamers, we are echo chamber in a sense on certain levels. Like we overvalue our thinking of buying this expensive box underneath the table and think that all of the masses of gaming. Now I'm assuming you're what, millennial, or what do you consider? Because I'm a Gen X. I'm a Gen X.
Yeah, I think millennial. I think.
Okay, I think you are, but
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that shit. I was born in '95.
All right, so whatever that is, that's where you at. Your group, right? But it's like those your group and probably a little bit before. That's going to dictate where gaming is going. When my group withers out and fades away, that's where, and if that group is not buying, and they're like, hey, why? I've heard some kids tell their fault, like, why, I have to buy a $400, $500 system, or I can play this on my phone. I can do, streaming. I can do whatever. So not saying that the entire market is going that way, right? but it is something to monitor the signs. You know what I mean? If there is decline, there has to be a pivot, and there has to be something you have to do. So I think that's what they're figuring out, and he made the good point about the third party, experiment which going on right now. He said, I think they're testing the waters, right? And, I know we're going to talk about it, but I don't know if you saw some Sea of Thieves stats recently.
Yes, that is our number one story.
All right, so we're going to leave that alone. Good. We'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting. And all I will say, for us hardcore, yes, this is scary. We've never seen anything like this. We never, again, it's usually third party or you're out of the business, not usually third party and you're still making first party games and you're making hardware. This is a weird zone and you're putting games here. So we got to see how this plays out. But, I will say this, Microsoft tends to be ahead of the curve a lot of times. We'll see in this case if it pans out for them. But this Peter Moore interview was excellent. Still recommend listening to mine. But he dropped some more updated, in fairness to IGN, he dropped some really updated, because they were challenging him on, are consoles dying? Is it going away? That was really the heart of this. And I felt he really stood up to the challenge and helped understand what the thinking is, from Microsoft and these companies.
Yeah, he seems like, when it comes to what Peter Moore had to say about the future of consoles, that it's one of those things where you never really know. Like he mentioned that, with like Silicon Valley and whatnot, he's like, we have no idea. It's always changing. But it seems more and more like things are starting to narrow, and, it's tough to make it cheaper at a certain point. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see the future of hardware, because in that same breath, the other side of the conversation is exclusivity and what the future of that is. And Sean Layden, I think, is someone to also listen to. He was former president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment of America. And he was really he was the first, from what I can recall, to start talking about inflated game budgets. And that was something a lot of people were pushing back against. And now it's like the talking point, like, oh, games are too expensive nowadays. Everyone's saying it, but this man said it first. And so one thing he said recently is exclusivity is your Achilles heel. This is fascinating to me, because this is coming from the man who led PlayStation through one of their greatest generations in the PS4. Like the exclusivity there was dominant. That was meant to many people. They attribute why they were dominant, why the units were selling at the rate they were. He says it reduces your addressable market, particularly when you're in the world of live service gaming or free to play. Another platform is just another way of opening the funnel, getting more people in a free to play world. As we know, 95% of those people will never spend a nickel. The business is all about conversion. You have to improve your odds by cracking the funnel open. Helldivers 2 has shown that for PlayStation, coming out on PC at the same time. Again, you get that funnel wider, you get more people in. And then he talked about, if you're spending more than $250 million, you want to be able to sell to as many people as possible, even if it's just 10% more, which could be, I think, what leads Xbox down that pathway of selling some of their more high profile games on other platforms, because I imagine that probably was the original plan, as we discussed, as it had been reported, at least, games like Indie, games like Starfield, we're going to leap the platform, probably because of what Sean's saying here, which is like, we need to widen the funnel. Like, we're not making money back on these. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how clairvoyant these two former leaders were, or sorry, I should say former leaders are. And yeah, any thoughts on what Sean Layden had to say as well?
Yeah, shout out to Sean Layden, man. He's always a good listen. I want to give a shout out to my homies, Jay Barry and Persona Speaks. They also had him on after that interview on their podcast called What's Up PlayStation Nation. And he kind of echoed those points in reference to, exclusivity, especially with live service. And I've always felt that, multiplayer like that needs to happen. So yeah, the industry is changing. The games are extremely expensive, and you have to figure out a way to kind of condense that, as well as see the rise of the AA space and the indie space to kind of combat that. So yeah, I mean, he was the first. You said it best. He was the first to really put that out there in the height of these big budget games being successful, and that's what the people had demanded at that one. They didn't want anything less than that. But now we're seeing the risk involved. And again, these Insomniac leaks are just so helpful in learning, about this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think we got to give him his flowers. He was the very first to put himself out there, died on his sword on that, and now looks like the prophet. But oh yeah, you saw the leaks, huh? You saw how much, but you see how they talk about how they rethinking everything, you know what I'm saying? And we're starting to see the effects. I'm a firm believer that Hellblade 2 is one of the effects. When I saw
how long it was in development for, and all the marketing pumped into it, it seems
$7 to $8, $50 price point. I think we're seeing a change on that
the tea leaves.
The tea leaves valuation. I'm a firm believer that Xbox is starting to experiment in that space. So we'll see.
We'll see in due time, but interesting interviews that y'all should check out nonetheless. Let's talk about an interesting report here that came from Rebs Gaming. They say that Microsoft has ended support for Halo Master Chief Collection's development. Now, this may not be a surprise to long-term Duke listeners, because there was at one point us covering that picture that was going around that, by the way, was not like, I don't think it was publicly posted, but it was like an achievement award saying like, thank you for your work on Master Chief Collection. It had almost a timestamp symbolizing that with this card that came alongside, it was like the end of work being done on Master Chief Collection. A lot of people were going, no, bring more. Now, they say one reason, according to Rebs Gaming, is because it lacked a revenue stream, and that Microsoft's decision is one that 343 is not happy with. Now, keep in mind, 343 originally attempted to monetize the game following the launch of Halo Infinite with purchasable Spartan points, but decided not to after a negative fan response. And if this report turns out to be true, which, I mean, it seems that way, this is an interesting web we've sort of spun ourselves into, because many people wanted continued support for MCC, but in the wake of Halo Infinite's launch and overcharging there and then charging elsewhere, we see now we've rejected that so firmly because a lot of the anger from Infinite was placed in that direction as well. Like, okay, now the greed's getting too big. But then you see what happened with like Tekken 8, where they do the Tekken shop, and Harada's like, look, I don't know what you guys want. Like it costs, what do you say, 2-3 times more to make Tekken 8 compared to 7, and like the servers are ridiculously expensive. Like, we need to keep this stuff live. We need money. Yeah. And so it was one of those situations where I imagine they were in the same exact spot over at 343, but you have way less power over there right now when you speak to your audience who doesn't want to hear anything from you, but like, here's a free thing because we're sorry. So it's interesting just to see how it's turned out, because it could have been a totally different ball game, and it shows potentially, in my read, another ripple effect from the poor launch of Halo Infinite and its support. It's in a great spot now, but it may have come at the cost of ending the support of MCC, because it went that south for them that they couldn't charge even in their best product. So, Cog, what do you make of Rebs Gaming's report here?
Yeah, I'm just kind of coming up on that. I do remember us having that conversation in reference to the support ending. And I just initially took it like, okay, Halo Infinite's out. This the new, we got to get the monetization over there. But, you're right. Like, I remember that the Halo Infinite, the media storm was so bad around the negativity, the cloud of negativity after the honeymoon effect wore off. Because the game, I'm still going to die on this, that game was great at launch. It was solid. It was a solid, great campaign. The multiplayer was dope. It was just that after you played the same maps for a couple of weeks, and after the monetization track was very thin, and we were like, okay, it's starting to now show its warts a little bit, right? And the longevity wasn't there. But yeah, anything they did, and then the stuff that was there was like super high charged monetization. Yeah. I remember, shout out to my homegirl, Atomic Murray. I bought it because I liked it had the Iron Lord's colors, and it's Esports Space Station. They got the gold and black, because I ain't want the ashy Spartan with the dust on her. I ain't like them ones. The borderline generic Spartan. So I was like, nah. But like you start to see the prices of things. You're like, man, for the whole thing, then I can't change. You start to see all the flaws. You can't change the suit with this model and that model, and you got to buy the shoulder pad individually, and start to show. So Yeah, unfortunately, the realities of the business is they needed that money, right? But the feedback, the reception was so negative at that time from a public relations standpoint, you can't come out and
Mm.
say, we want, this, that, and third. So yeah, that's one of the times where gamers do win out at the expense of the revenue for the corporation and then for them to sustain it. So yeah, it makes sense to me. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe we get more clarification, or maybe we get more, something says we were proven wrong, but it kind of seems right on track to me as far as
Yeah,
the timeline.
it definitely adds up. So we'll see how it goes, but just a little report there. Let's talk about Persona 3's DLC. So I used one of my rare analogies last week to describe Atlas as, you're dating them, you think it's going great, and then you see the real them as the months go on. And so Atlas has come under a little bit of fire here for charging for the answer, which, by the way, is free on Game Pass. So if you are a Game Pass subscriber, I think it's available until January 25th of next year. So you can redeem the whole entire expansion pass, get all of the cosmetics, and then the answer at the end of it all. But what's happening is a lot of people are pushing back against this charging of the story content, because this is something that originally the game was apparently done in 2022, the report was, and that they took a couple of years to localize it. And then they decided to split off the answer and sell that separately. And that's problematic because there are people who spent, like, I don't think you can see in the background, but it's right up there on that back bookshelf case. Mm-hmm. Persona 3 Collector's Edition, right? This is like a $200 item, and there are people who spent on that, and like, you don't get the complete game in that. Like, you don't get the DLC codes or anything in that. So when you look at that, plus some of the pre-launch DLC, like, Atlas is nickel and diamond a bit out here, more than they usually do, might I add. Normally you get a re-release a few years down the line with everything in one, and that's kind of it. But yeah, when it comes to Persona 3 Reload, there's a little pushback, but for Xbox fans, you're okay because you may have already got the game from Game Pass. So you go ahead, you download this expansion for free as part of your subscription. But otherwise, COG, a little bit of troublesome over there for Atlas. So any thoughts on the answer, how it's being handled, and will you be checking it out since it's free on Game Pass?
Yeah, I did raise my antennas last week about this because I remember we were talking about what you were playing, and I'm like, wait a minute. When you broke it down, I was like, this answer is an expansion or a remastered game that they're charging. I've never heard of this before. So look, I don't want to piss the good folks at Atlas off because we want you to continue to make your games on Xbox. However, we have to call you guys out on this. Like, this is, if you're not on Game Pass, like anybody, I got to empathize with y'all. Like, this is wild. Like, it's a $70 game, $30 launch DLC, $35 expansion pass. And then if you bought, what is it, the $100 or the $200 edition or whatever, the expansion pass is not included. Atlas. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. I like y'all. And you know what it is? They know they got something hot, and they know they got, because I'm like, yo, this is wild. I've never heard a dude say, yo, we remastered the joint you love from years back, y'all. Then we gonna break this thing down a couple. We gonna slice it. Like, what are we doing? This is, you supposed to give me the whole thing. Like, this is not new content. At least I didn't take it that way. So that's why I asked you. You were like, yeah, this was part of it. This, I was like, wow, yeah. But again, Xbox is winning right now on this because they're like, if you want to play it, hassle free, come on through.
Honestly, yeah, it could benefit them in that very strange way, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Atlas has definitely become a little more egregious as the years have pressed on, unfortunately. And we'll see if they make any adjustments at all. I don't anticipate them to because, like you mentioned earlier, they know when they got something hot. And this only arrived because Persona fans are so diehard. They are going to pay for this stuff. You know, like that's just the reality of it. They know that they're going to pay no matter what, because that fanship, like, what are the biggest announcements in the last few years was when Joker came to Smash. Like, that was a huge deal.
The pop was crazy.
Yeah, huge deal, right? And like, that's how, of course, excited everyone is about Smash. But more importantly, like, that speaks to Persona and like the love being so strong that this series probably wasn't even in close to popularity compared to something like Final Fantasy. And I still don't know if it's super close, but you could definitely say things like that narrow the gap in, recognition, visibility. And so, yeah, Atlas knows they got something there. I mean, it's one of the fastest selling, I think the fastest selling Persona game to 1 million. Wow. So they knew they had something there, right? And now they're make their bread off of it.
Yeah. Shout out to my boy Lord Flame. We got an article on lordsofgaming.net about this. Go check it out. He's like, let's see. I had to come to the front of the congregation. Yeah. And this is the biggest Persona fan like you. Like, he loves these games. So yeah, he did mention it.
Ni no Kuni is staying on Game Pass. Just a quick little update there. Just because I know we talked about what was coming to Game Pass and leaving Game Pass last week. Ni no Kuni was a part of that list, supposed to leave March 15th, but it's been updated that it's staying, which I think is great. This game is, I know I think Colin gave it what did Colin give this game? I know he reviewed it, I'm pretty sure, at IGN, and he gave it a really high score. He might give it a 10, but wow. I adore Ni no Kuni, bro. It's just nice, incredible video game. Like, if people have slept on it up until this point in time, and you're looking for your next JRPG, it's got some of those. I'm not like a big Ghibli head, however the fuck you say it, but I'm not big on Studio Ghibli shit. But I will say the visuals are beautiful, and it had that team working on the visuals, so it's like playing a Miyazaki film. But the story is really heartfelt. The combat has definitely aged well, in my opinion. Very kind of creature catchy, but also like real-time strategy. It's really interesting. It's a very different game. And the story is like 60 hours long, pretty long, but palatable for a JRPG, I'd say, especially compared to, like, we were talking about Persona earlier, which can push to like 80, 90, 100 hours. So yeah, Ni no Kuni's still there on Game Pass. If you were worried it was going away, fret not. Cog, let's talk about The Last Case of Benedict Fox. This was one of your picks for last year's fantasy draft, and I know you were like, on it. There's a definitive edition, and it's arriving March 26th, available through Xbox Game Pass as well. There is, and you can explain all of this to me, a new limbo area. They're adding some new secrets alongside enhanced exploration, and they're smoothing out the combat even, which I think was apparently, okay, based on your reaction, apparently that was one of the big complaints of the game. So seeing all of this, do you think that this is something you might want to give a second chance to, knowing that they've had some time to tinker, I think like an extra year and a half now, make the game better? So what are you feeling about this as someone who's played the game?
Yeah, because that was one of my draft disappointments, man. I had such high hopes for it. I love the art style, and it was kind of like, the puzzle elements, stuff like that. But the input lag and them frame drops on the combat, it just tore it up. So when I see fluid combat, and that's one of your bullet points, now I gotta check it out, because again, it just had like a cool charm to it. I thought it was gonna be one of the big artsy fartsy card games, and I'm like, I can put my chest out, and it didn't hit. And they ended up, for me, I think it was Lana took the show from them last year. A couple other games really stole the show in that, that kind of genre, and I thought they were the lead coming in. And to see them kind of fall like that. But yeah, I'm going to give this a shot, because they deserve a second chance. There's enough there, and I want to see how they handle the exploration. And specifically the combat. That was the main part of the game that they didn't kind of get right. So we own it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on it, because I know that was one you were really excited for. I know a lot of the Xbox audience was excited for. And when the reviews came out and they were pretty middling, I was surprised, because it looked like it presented itself well. So I'm hoping this is what people are really looking for at the end of the day. Yeah,
my editor chief, he read it. It's fun. It's people so funny with me, like on LogNet, like they ask, like if they're about to get something, they're like, especially if they know I like it, they'd be like, I just gonna let you know. And I'm like, bro, do what you got to do. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's because you and I love hard. People break it to me the same way. Man, I'm like, it's okay. I'm gonna be all right.
Like I'm supposed to, give it 2 more points. Nah. Like, what am I supposed to do? But I love that they love me so much, and they know that I love it, so that they come to me just to tell me the news. Like, yo, this is where I'm at with it. I'm like, that's cool. I respect that, though.
Yeah, that's so funny. The idea you slide the points up a little bit. Like, come on, I'm hyped for that. What are you doing? That shit up.
I was like, that 6.5 going to stay on LordsOfGamer.net. It's going to stay.
All right, let's talk about Moon Studio again. They are in the news once more. These are the developers of Ori, as many of you know, also developers of, I am forgetting the name of the game, No Rest for the Wicked. That's what it was, which we talked about yesterday or last week with the gameplay that they had shown off. The creative director, Thomas Mahler, was also in the news. Apologies for my dogs in the background. And we were talking about the relationship that they had with Xbox and how he was very much console war agnostic, to say the least, and told people not to buy the game on Xbox pretty much because he was like, you're going to get it on Game Pass, and that's not going to help our team. So now we have this update here on the studio's relationship with Xbox when someone said it's a shame how it ended. And he said this, quote, it didn't have any bad ending. I'm pretty sure we're still doing exciting things with Xbox in the future. I just wanted to ship Wicked on all platforms with crossplay support. And back then that was not possible under Microsoft. I 100% believe in where Phil is heading, end quote. So, Cog, what do you make of these updated comments from the creative director at Moon Studios, Thomas Mahler?
Yeah, the more I read about him and his comments, to me, it gives a clearer vision of context. Because I forget, he actually made a good point with that. I forget how early they were down with Xbox in the Xbox One. And they were down during the bad indie policy era. Like, they were way back before Chris Charles and the team really got ID and Xbox popping, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think everything he says lines up. Obviously, the game being on cross-play, cross-platform is going to be huge for them. I like the fact that he speaks glowingly still of Xbox. He said that we didn't end on any bad terms. It wasn't no beef, and he looks to work with them in the future. And again, I highly advise people, like, go play Ori and the Blind Forest. Play Ori and Will and Wisp. Like, these are magical games that criminally underrated, should have won awards, but some, let's just say, individuals were just not, privy to the platform at the time. That's how I'm gonna say it.
Probably one of the biggest snubs of all of gaming, since like the awards have become relevant. Like that one will always bother me. That one never got
anything, bro. Like, that killed me. Like, it's just unfortunate. So yeah, just from a story standpoint, I mean, that game gets you in the fields too. Like,
oh, dude,
really. Yeah. So now, No Rest for the Wicked's out there. One of my higher anticipated joints.
What are you doing when No Rest for the Wicked gets nominated for something?
That's gonna be it. It'll be interesting how I act.
Yeah.
But yeah, now salute to him. Thomas Mahler and their team. They seem that they got something going on there. He got a lot of Diablo slander. I know that.
That's no doubt about that.
He's throwing shots.
Yeah. Hopefully they live up to their own personal hype.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. I'm cool. I'm cool with the shit talk, man. Like, make it a little competitive for yourself, but
just put it
just deliver at the end of the day, right?
That is. Rod and the team is watching. Only if you slip on a banana peel, they won't remember all that you said.
Right. Next up here, we have Multiversus, which is returning May 28th this year. New heroes, PvE mode, additional stages, reworked characters from the, quote, beta, quote. The game is being rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5, so updated lighting, updated character models. They said it's snappy, better netcode. So they're really put their back into this one, and I'm excited. I really enjoyed Multiversus when it came out. It's about the support after launch. I'm hoping, let's be real, they were ready to fucking launch this shit when it first came out. My theory is that they have just built up a stock of post-launch things in this time frame, and now they're good to support the game for years and just keep that money rolling. That is my big brain theory here. But the game looks great still. I'm very, very excited about it. I love that we had a really strong Smash clone with a fun roster. Like, that's what made this game pop for people. So I'll be back playing Multiversus when it does release. I don't know if my Tekken bug will be kicked by then, so I don't know if I'll be sticking as long as maybe I originally would have. But nonetheless, Multiversus is on the way back May 28th. Cog, are you planning to check this one out?
I want to give it a shot because I know how much you like it. And I'll be honest, I'm not a Smash guy, but some points that you said as far as the gameplay not really being exactly like Smash kind of got my attention. I was like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really necessarily care for the mechanics per se the fighting gameplay mechanics of Smash per se. But I understand how much fun it is. I understand how chaotic it is. And I do kind of like the roster in the Multiverses.
It was great. They hadn't even touched like the tip of the iceberg either. Like they had so many more to add, so many rumors and a ton of speculation on who could be added. I remember like Gandalf was leaked at one point. Yeah, they have a treasure trove at WP. Like they are the perfect company to make something like this.
Yes.
So I hope
the IPs, the characters. They got a roster that'd be crazy.
Yeah. So we'll see in due time. Only a couple months away, so I imagine they're going to take the Nick All-Star Brawl approach and just start peppering us with characters, hopefully on like a weekly basis, and just really overload the hype. But we shall see, sir. For now, we move on over to Dragon's Dogma 2 as our last bit of news before we talk about what we're playing, and then a couple of viewer write-ins. Dragon's Dogma 2, it's been confirmed that it's uncapped on consoles. The frame rate, uncapped. So no visual modes, no presets, uncapped. We'll talk about that in a moment. Character creators available now, so you can build your pawn, build your Arisen. This is actually great because these are all going to get uploaded basically to the cloud, where you can now download. Like people are making Bully McGuire, people are making they made Lae'zel, Shadowheart. People are making some like hilarious characters, some really cool ones. So this character creator, as my friend put it, is disgustingly capable. And so I'm very excited for the game. There was a ton of previews that went out. There were a ton of gameplay, vocation trailers. Like they've really ramped this thing up to the next level, and the hype is palpable, which is really, really cool to see. Because when I first started covering Dragon's Dogma 2, the numbers were soft, not just like on my end, but like I was looking around, because that's what I usually do. Like if a video flops, I'm like, all right, what, how are other people doing? Like, did I miss the mark somewhere? Like whether it be timing or what I was focusing on or how I labeled it. And like Dragon's Dogma 2 was getting really soft numbers for the amount of coverage it was getting. But now it's the opposite. Like now it's getting like the Baldur's Gate 3 effect, where it's like, oh, we're on the rise now. Like it's crazy to see. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement for this, because I think it's literally built off the faith that people have in Capcom. I mean, the game looks amazing, but I think there's just a ton of faith in Capcom, because this is literally Dragon's Dogma 1 again. I mean, there's a lot of changes, but they're not steering away from what made the first game the first game. I think the timing's right. Like I think the masses are ready for a more hands-free, if you will, experience, like Elden Ring almost. Elden Ring stripped a lot of the AAA conventions away from open world design, and people loved it. And I think Dragon's Dogma did that in the first place, and they're going to do that again with the sequel, except it's going to be on a bigger scale, bigger bosses. They showed a clip in their game overview from a few days ago, Cog. Okay, so when you fought massive bosses, they were in this like open world area, which makes sense. But they were showing a clip where this dude like ran into a town, and this eagle just swooped in through the gates and attacked, and the NPCs like go to arms and get ready and start fighting alongside you. So it's like 20 on 1. Crazy shit, bro. This game looks amazing. Now, to start at the top, though, I mentioned uncapped frame rate on consoles.
Let's go.
This could be a touch concerning, just because this means, remember what Todd said as an example for our listeners about frame rate, and how he said we locked it at 30 so you don't think about it. And I admit, I was definitely like, I don't know, Todd, 30 doesn't sound great on paper. And you're telling me I'm not going to be thinking about something I'm going to be seeing for like 100 plus hours. I don't know about that, Chief. But he was right. And I saw it happen again with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where I was like playing in 4K 30, but it played so smooth and it was so locked that I didn't really think about it. And I was like, okay, so there is like an argument to be made here that it's like you just don't notice sometimes. And with Dragon's Dogma 2, it being uncapped means it could go up to maybe the 40s in some instances, but it could also fall to like the 20s. And not having it locked is kind of a dangerous play on consoles, in my opinion. Now, we'll see, because I think of moments like that big boss fight I was talking about, where like the eagle swoops in, everyone's fighting, it's in a town, a lot of clutter, a lot on screen. That sounds like a recipe for a frame drop. It does. So I'm just wondering how you feel about this in the frame rate department. Are you interested in Dragon's Dogma 2? I know you and I are in a slew of games we're playing right now. We got kind of our mainstays. We're trying to focus on other things like Rebirth. Like we got a lot going on. And this game's, as of the time recording this, 9 days away. So it's one I know I'm going to be there for day one, but I'm curious, what are you feeling for Dragon's Dogma 2?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, shout out to you for really putting me on about how the first game was and how much it meant and what things you can do in the mechanics. And that gave me the foundation. Okay, I'm interested. The number 2 thing was that when I saw it, it's funny. I had like an inkling. I don't know why, but when I first saw it, Dragon's Dogma 2, just a preview, it was giving me that epic Elden Ring kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like this could be one of those ones, right? Like this could be that goatee, you know what I'm saying? It could be right here, and we thinking it's a light year again, and here comes another strong year. So it come to find out, like you said, it started off soft with a lot of the, coverage, but then like I believe it was shout out to IGN, a couple other people, they put some stuff out there like, hey, preview, yo, we played it, yo, yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Shout out to Jazz. I think he was one of them, Windows Central.
Jazz was big on it, yeah.
Yeah, like, bro, it's great. And I'm like, so my gut was kind of right. Now, to the frame rate, it's tough because obviously I don't like inconsistency. Of course not. But I think I'm okay with uncapped on console because there's a part of me that's like, let it get to its highest potential. At least I can see it some of the time. You know what I'm saying? But I understand Todd's point, with Todd in his game, he's like, yo, 30. And in his credit, I remember when we talked about, spoiler cast for Starfield, we were like, yo, that was the thing we came in most worried about ended up being a non-issue.
Yeah,
with Starfield,
every other thing under the sun but the frame rate.
Yeah, but the frame rate. I was like, yeah, that was a non-issue. So I was like, okay, so we got to see because the scope of this game, your game, man, this Dogma thing. Look, once I seen that the big, towering, boss thing that you could Gollum kind of thing that you can scale.
The Titan thing, yeah,
bro. I was just like, the scale of this game is going to be crazy. And then you talk about birds coming through with villages and NPCs and individuality. So it looks like it's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So those games you tend to say, okay, hopefully you don't screech down to the 20s or something. You know what I'm saying? Crazy. So we got to see how it is. But it's going to be very interesting when the Digital Foundry stuff comes out. And that comes out, they're going to break.
They're going to do numbers on this one.
Oh, bro, the Digital Foundry, like, oh, really? They got the Birdman hands. Uncapped, you say? All right, Playboy. See what you got. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I got my eye on Dogma, man. It's got that look. It's got that feel.
For me, I really want to finish Rebirth, but I got a couple of trips to do. Like I said, I wish I could take Rebirth with me, but I just don't want to lug the PS5 around. But
I feel you.
I want this done before Dogma 2 because I know I'm not.
I know.
What's
my deadline? When's Dogma 2 release?
That's the 22nd.
Oh God, it's that close.
I know. I've already made the executive decision. Number one, I can't review Rise of the Ronin because PlayStation is the publisher. Like I reached out, they just don't fucking answer me. So I try anyway, but that's just their MO. But I still make the attempt. Once they didn't answer, and then I saw Fighting Cowboys impressions. He's like, yeah, I think of Team Ninja games in their combat, and I'm like, yeah, me too. And he's like, yeah, combat's not as great as like Neo and Wolong. I'm like, fuck.
Oh, did you see the clip going around with Oh, you ain't see.
I only saw his video, but that was like I'm like eye to eye with my boy Fighting Cowboy. So
I didn't realize we follow each other like that, and I didn't realize who he was until recently.
He's amazing. I love that.
He's super dope. What's crazy is he did the Capcom.
Yeah, bro. I messaged him about that. I saw his ass in the first shot. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, for him, but he's making rounds, man. He's doing amazing.
Very proud of him because he did the my joint, my little sleeper path to the goddess. Yeah, he was on in that joint. But anyway, back off. So with Rise, there's a clip going around where he kind of like scaling a building, Spider-Man-esque with the very. The animation ain't look too good, and he's kind of like. I
saw a funky animation for a horse stack as well.
Yeah, this was it very felt PS3-ish, and it felt very cheap. What's the word? You know how you Bionic Commando or something, or you grappled or something?
Yeah,
it was kind of that energy. It just ain't look, and it was a samurai on a building. So I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this just yet. But
Ubisoft sitting there rubbing their hands.
Yeah, they like,
oh yeah, that doesn't look good, does it? We got something for you this year.
So look, I'm not gonna let that one clip ruin the entire thing, but I hate to say it, Ronan. Like, no, you gonna have to move. So you gotta move your date, man.
Yeah,
you gotta move your date.
Too late though.
It's too late now.
Yeah, the review codes are out, but
I don't like the energy I'm feeling coming in with Dogma on you. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them because I mean they typically find. I don't think the game's gonna be bad. Like it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look as like they're exploring a niche as deeply. Like especially, I don't think of Team Ninja for open world stuff ever. I think of them as like crafting their own corner and things you're already familiar with and bringing them together. Like that's what Neo 2 did. Neo 2's right next to like Lies of P and Bloodborne, like and Elden Ring, just like a top Souls-like experience that just cannot be missed. And to kind of go, Wo Long was also fantastic. Just last year was so good. Wo Long didn't even make my top 10.
Bro, right?
But like, yeah, that was a top experience last year. And that was like RPG Sekiro. Like that is a great niche for someone like me. But like, Rise of the Ronin, I'm just looking at like, yeah, like I don't have that hunger for open world anymore. And if I do, it's Dragon's Dogma 2. Like that's an easy choice for me, not because of like brand recognition. It's like, I'm tired of AAA open world, and I feel like when you strip them of the sensibilities you're used to, you get something like Elden Ring or Dragon's Dogma 2. That's when you've got my attention. Because I've just even with Rebirth, part of the reason I've dragged my heels with it a little bit is like I don't enjoy the open world as often as I used to, and that's why I think I've fallen off of PlayStation games. Like open world, it's not even a time thing. Like I play dozens of hours of games a week. It's just I don't like open world anymore. It's just not. It needs to be reinvented, and that's why games like Dragon's Dogma 2 and Elden Ring, I'll put my hours in because it's like, yeah, you're going to give me something different that I otherwise won't get anywhere. So I hope more developers continue to evolve what open world does.
Yeah, that's the key. Well said. Well said.
All right, that's enough news for now, Cog. Let's talk about what video games we're playing this week. This is where we become the Tekken cast. We do have. Cog, we've been getting mad write-ins about Tekken 8. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll read through some of them when you get to your inevitable section about Tekken 8. But please begin with your first game, sir.
All right, I got a confession. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I apologize. I can't believe this has happened because I had a mission. I had the plan, Matty. I had the plan. I was like, I'm gonna get it done in 3 weeks. Knock this bad boy out. I'll still casually play my Tekken and but Destiny has raged back into the fold. And I didn't see this coming. Remember I told you about last week with the hoverboards and like, you're really Silver Surfer out here. Like, this is my Silver Surfer fantasy. The gameplay is outstanding. The way this thing is on all the older content. Now you can go back with this thing. Then, like I said, I told you the meta changed. That's great. But here's the fun part. Because I was away from Destiny, there was things I missed out. Like I missed out on the redoing of the Crota raid. So they reprised a raid from Destiny 1 called Crota's End. And I didn't play it during that time. Destiny was dead. I was like, I'm good. Bro, that was such a good job. You know what I'm saying? The new weapons they've added. So now here's the thing. It's like I've got the band that's coming back together again. Like the old homies hit you up.
Yeah.
Hey, I see you on. What you doing? All right, cool. You want to do this dungeon? All right, cool. We want to do this. So now it's starting. And it's like everybody's slowly like, it's safe to come back. It's cool. All right, cool. And we having fun again. And the jokes. And it's something, the community of Destiny, especially, like I told you, some of my favorite things in gaming and all of gaming is a Destiny raid. I highly still recommend, Matty, at one point,
I will do it.
Do have to do one just to say, okay, what is a Destiny raid experience?
Sure.
Right. And again, it's top flight communication. It's top flight teamwork. And I'm not going to say Crota was probably, because it was one of the shorter raids or one of the least mechanical raids out of all of Destiny raids history, but they reprised it in a way that everybody has a role. So we look forward to doing it. And then they incentivize it by doing it again, that you can build up towards this powerful weapon. And it's the auto rifle. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but Necrochasm. And everybody wants it, right? So you got that. Like I told you, PvP mana, and then also the Guardian games, which is a really fun thing. It really is rewarding. You do ritual activities. You get these little gold medals. You turn them in. The game showers you with loot, and it's all new loot and reprised, and it's in a good place. And get this. Guess who's out of the player count doldrums?
Oh, really? People are actually coming back?
So on Xbox, I knew it was real when my homie, shout out to Flame, he's a Warframe guy, right? So when Destiny was going through their down period, he's like, yeah, look at Warframe's active users, calm, what's up? And I'm like, this is the first time you got to talk to me in years. I was like, we've been smashing your head in for, all right, you kicking us when we down, the studio in trouble, the board might be dissolved. All right, cool. He preemptively messages me. It was like, before you even do it, congratulations, you're back to where you. And I was like, I knew it. It was up, but I didn't know it was still up.
Yeah, they went from 15K to 55.
55, bro. So here's the thing, Matty. I'm thinking it's just me. Oh, it's a little cog. You just reminiscing. You going back to your comfort food. So again, I'm not saying it's all the way back, but it's slow. We in our Halo Infinite slowly coming back. They got now. April's going to be big. April, they've got, it's called Into the Light. Remember, the final shape was supposed to be in February.
Right.
That got delayed to June.
They split it, right?
They split, right. So now you got this content, a big sandbox update, which was now, and Guardian games, right? Mm-hmm. I think Iron Banner, whatever. But April's going to be big because this is like a small mini, I want to call it a DLC, but it's a placeholder to give us more content to hold us to June. Now, if they nail that, and a big if they nail final shape, we might be back. But this is a lot of wishful hope. I know I'm wishful. I'm just surprised that I thought it was just me and my little crew having fun again, not thinking the community is like, no, we kind of okay. We kind of liking this. We kind of, so glimmers of hope, y'all. I don't want to get too gassed, but the numbers are coming back. So I've been raiding with the homies and playing with, and because of that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to get back on Final Fantasy. Like it's just, and the guys are like, yo, what's up? Well, tomorrow night, you know how they get you in the routine again?
They put you on schedule. Yeah,
they like weekly reset too. Come on, bro, we got to get that. You didn't get this. Then we farm, and then the other thing is they're making things farmable. They're answering the community's problem. Like they're doing a little something. Like, all right, Destiny, damn it.
Yeah, it's so funny how they twist your arms back into the game after everything that went wrong. They're like, we hear you. We see you. And
they know. Oh, and I told you to hustle. They had me do this. They got you. For this Guardian games, they got to link your Twitch account to Bungie.net. All you got to do is watch your favorite Destiny streamer for 2 hours. You get this platinum medallion that gives you all this stuff and loot. So again, quick ways to boost this engagement. They ain't slick. They got it going on by all angles, bro.
So funny to hear. It's just so obvious. It's not subtle at all.
And the reason why,
it reminds me of Amazon when they launch a game and how they just fucking juice it with streamers. It reminds me so much that I'm like, you guys think your numbers are hot, but they're not.
They're not. And it's cool. I'm just saying, like, I don't want their board to be dissolved. So I got to do my part, Matty. I got to go down with drunk.
You're good.
I'm doing what I got to do. So that's been it with that. And then obviously, we here defining Duke, the Tekken podcast. The Tekken podcast. I was so happy my Tekken drip finally came today. Oh, got the harangue shirt. I went there and got no
shop, sir.
Huh?
I say you're supporting the Tekken shop, sir?
Oh, yes, I am supporting. I'm a full supporter. I'm an only member. I'm a client. Look, man. No, they got the merch, the apparel. So I saw they got that, but they don't got the Li Chaoling shirt because that's what I really wanted yet. So they just got him, and I got the Martial Law one, but I saw also Harangue. I was like, oh, I'm buying that. Get shipped that to me now. So I was on their merch store. But as far as Tekken is concerned, this is where we at now. Now playing matches every week. Oh, shout out to PJ Collins' friend, who we get in our rotations, playing matches. We do it once a week. He's got a serious Kuma. His Kuma is crazy. He's got a Kuma that
he's
looks
actually
like
good with the Kuma.
Bro, he got a Kuma that, remember Smokey the Bear with the pull out the forest fires?
Yeah.
He dresses him with the hat, with the smoky hat. He got the honey. You don't want to lose to this bear. Yeah. Like he's making outfits that's just so out of pocket, and he's good. So we got that going on. So now what we do is every week. Usually we pick a Friday or Saturday, get the homies together, we do play a match. But then if you're cross-platform, don't worry. If you're PlayStation or whatever, we get you in the lobby. We add you as a Tekken friend. Tekken, y'all got to fix. I should be able to search by your Tekken ID.
From the menu. Yeah, not going into the world section.
Yeah, I got to go to, you got to be going to a continent, and then I got to find my friend. But once you find him and you add him as a Tekken friend, then he's on my Tekken friend list, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So we've been doing that, and I usually, here's a new thing we do is, because you can have up to 16 slots, what we do is I usually open up 3 or 4 to let the internet just come in. Just to test. Some dudes be coming in there with some people. Yeah. They're nice. One dude almost ran through the whole clique. I said, hold on. Let me get Harangue out here. This you can't disrespect the homies like this. You ain't gonna embarrass me in my little player room. But dudes be really friendly. They type it. You can tell they on PC. They're like, hey, I'm a Tekken hardcore. I prefer this format. So we got that going on. So I guess the latest updates is a little bit more balancing coming. There's a maintenance update today as of recording. Yeah. More items added to the Tekken shop. So we're going to see what that is. Okay. And I would say, we're at the stage now where we're playing so much that now you got to have your 3 outfit minimum, Matty. So now, like, I don't want, if we playing, you just can't come with the same Claudio outfit. You got to have, like, so with me, I got my Harangue series. So you see, I got the white and the black, though, but I colored this. I colored this black. Yeah. And then I got the band, I got the blindfold. Like I'm the mask, I could see it all. If I bring that Harangue out, you're in trouble. I'm taking this very serious. Like, this is you making me get serious.
So funny, because I did one customization with Claudio, and I made him look like, for my Trails fans out there, I made him look like Kevin Graham. And that's the only time I've customized him. But like, my friend loves the customization, and he's dressing up like Asuka, he's dressing up Zhao Yu, and I'm like, every time he pulls out, like he did like the FemC for Persona 3 as Zhao Yu, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna beat your ass so bad now. Like that's what it does to me. Like, I hate the customizers. I'm like, I'm like, and so it's so funny that your group has a rule like, no, you need more outfits. It's like, for me, I'm like, get that out of here, bro. Like my extent of my customization was, I took, when I first started playing week 1, Dragunov, took your shirt off, gave him the blindfold, gave him a pair of pants, bare feet, and I was like, this dude's just a blind beater. That's it. And that was my headcanon for him. I was like, for me, that was cool. So I'm not the guy to go to for all this stuff, but it's so funny hearing how different your group is, where there's like standards, it's like you're dressing up for the show, right? Like, you guys wear a suit and tie. Like, you got to get ready.
You don't want to know with Lee Chow Lang. I got the Phantom of the Opera joint with the trench coat. Yeah. I got the Phantom mask. I got the beard like he might be late for a 2:00 appointment. He's got a whole storyline with one of his suits, right? Then I got the weight of the joint with the tux, then I got the army suit. Like, I got different vibes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we at that point, and we like, dudes looking like, okay, what this fool make? Everybody's like, yo, I can't lose to this person when he wearing that. So it's in that energy. So get your little customers. You got to have at least one backup, Matty. Come on.
I got one for Claudio. That's it.
All right.
I haven't tried to customize Yoshimitsu because I don't know what that would actually look like. I haven't even opened up the menu to see like what outfits they give this guy who's like an alien pretty much. Or like his suit is like very alien. I also like how Yoshi looks. So it's hard to imagine changing him.
So this week I got to be careful. This is the last thing is that, player batch last couple weeks been dominated by Harangue. I'm assuming my Ghost has been downloaded. I'm assuming they're ready. So I got to change up now. So I expect it's going to be hell for me. And we got some new people that hit me up on Twitter. It was like, yo, can I join? And we do got that rule still, just for anyone who's listening. Like, yo, I want to play with y'all. Again, our group is very tight knit with the permanent members kind of thing. So somebody's like, yo, do y'all have a Ling play? I was like, no, we do need one. Hey, Brady got a Ling? Come in. Because we don't want to see duplicates. I don't want to see someone bringing a Harangue. Like, I'm not really trying to do that. I see that enough online. We're trying to bring in individual characters that we don't see. We make some charitable exceptions. We make some, like, yo, if you came in with Claudio, all right, not too many people using Claudio. All right, come on, Matty. Come on.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because this reminds me of like your Destiny clan, like the way it's just organized. Like that's your thing. Like that's your kink. You like to organize big groups of people.
Yes. I love it. It's a structure. You got to have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's pretty much what I've been doing. And
we
I will get back
definitely,
to Final Fantasy VII. I will.
Yes, absolutely. But we have some Tekken write-ins here. This one in particular I wanted to get into for you, Cog. We'll save the other one for when I get to my section on it. Spectre Bull writes, greetings, Matty and world's worst Tekken cheater. Matty, it might be time to find a new co-host. Yesterday, I was having a seemingly innocent conversation with my boss about the most broken Tekken characters in its history. And then the unthinkable happened. Turns out my editor-in-chief, the once great and now forever corrupted, yes with a capital C, Lord Cognito, is a spam lord. Cog told me about how Kazuya was the most broken character in Tekken 2 due to being the only character in the game who could sidestep. He then shamelessly admitted to using the character with the poor "I was young" excuse. All that said, Matty, who do you think is the most busted character in Tekken history? I'll let you decide if Cog gets to answer. Spectre Bull, aka Lord of Violence. P.S. This week's hashtag is OPDD. End of story. All right, Cog. So do you have some explaining to do, sir? I had not played Tekken 2 before, so I don't know the history of Kazuya, but him being the only character who can sidestep sounds pretty like one-sided in a confrontation. So what are your thoughts on this, sir? Expand a little.
So shout out to the Lord of Violence, Spectre Bull. I knew this was coming. I didn't know you was gonna pick it, but you did pick it with your humor. So I was like, oh, it's coming. All right. So the man comes to me. We talk about how to see it on Discord. He's like, yo, Cog, you're the Tekken guy. I need some history. So he sends me a list of an article he's about to write about the most busted, Tekken characters. So I'm looking at him, all right, this is good. This actually got, and I'm thinking he's just going to do Tekken 8. I didn't think he was going to do like the history of Tekken. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, let me look. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's one missing here. So I was like, yo, he's like, what could you think I could add? I was like, oh, bro, you got to add Tekken 2 Kazuya. So he's like, oh, really? Why? And I was like, oh, you didn't know? I was like, before sidestepping in Tekken was introduced as a mechanic in Tekken 3, Tekken 2 Kazuya was the only character that could sidestep. And a lot of people did not know this. So he was like, really? He's like, tell me you didn't do this. I was like, hell yeah, I did. So he was like, wait a minute. So I said, here's the thing. First of all, yes, I was young. That was number one. But number two, I did my due diligence. I knew Namco, whenever they release a Tekken game, you got to play and beat it with all the characters. Right. You unlock all the sub-bosses, all the endings, and Kazuya was one of the final people in the purple suit Kazuya. All you did was tap up, literally, and he'd do this little shimmy to the right or shimmy to the left. Matty, it was so busted. Like, people could be flailing at you, and you just shimmy, you be right behind, blah, 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 blah. He was busted in competitive. Like, if there was competitive Evo, he would be banned. He was like the only character to do it. A lot of people do it. Another person who was busted was one of my guys, Lee Chao Lang. Lee Chao Lang was he had this infinite low kick thing spam you could do. He had all types of, this is when Tekken was not balanced at all. So yes, I own it. Blame the developers. Yeah. Take your issue with Harada.
Oh, it's Harada's fault now.
It's Harada. And another one, he didn't have it on his list, but Harang wasn't guilty of this, but Bayek, his master, whenever he jumped his flamingo and he could sidestep around. It was crazy, crazy movement. That flamingo movement, you could sidestep. Now they've really nerfed that type of stuff in with the Taekwondo characters. But yeah, Tekken's had some interesting OP history. Yeah. But yes, I was part of that.
My Tekken history is admittedly limited. Like I said, starting in 6.
Yes.
So yeah, it's one of those things where I had to do my research online, and I learned that when I was looking at Tekken 1 King, I found out he's got an elbow that was a mid launcher. And then I also found out that Steve in Tekken 5 could apparently death combo you if he caught you, which I don't know right now if Tekken 8 has any death combos, but I think that's one of the best parts of the, I mean, you can hit over 100 damage if all the stars align and everything, but Tekken, like I'm pretty happy that where it is right now with combo damage and that it's mostly like a jab focused game, a poke focused game. But those were kind of like the two that really stood out to me. In the terms of experience, I think Tekken 7 Akuma was just a menace. I didn't experience it because I hadn't played much of the DLC, but Tekken 7 Leroy apparently at his launch like destabilized the entire game.
Bro.
It's so funny because he was already bad at launch in Tekken 8 and they nerfed him in the first update. They were like, he will never be good again. We promise. We're so sorry. Like that was so funny to me getting that history lesson. So yeah, I haven't experienced too much of it, to be completely honest, but I would say Akuma was the most hands-on one where it's just like,
yeah. It was an adjustment, man. It's tough. Them fireballs, getting out the way, the combos. He just a Street Fighter character in Tekken just felt a weird getting used to him. And yeah, it was tough. Shout out to Super Akuma, some of the Akuma legends in the Evo fighting scene, the Tekken scene. Yeah, it's always something in Tekken. I would say this one right now, if I had to put my vote, I say Dragunov right now. He's got some ugly frame traps and aggressive things. I seen top level guys. I had to use every trick in the book just to scrape by a couple of these guys, and they will get you out of there quick. So yeah, salute to Dragunov and those guys. So we'll see. We'll see how the meta shapes out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see with the upcoming patches if they do anything with Dragunov, Zhao Yu. Like there are videos going around with Zhao Yu because she's got the Phoenix stance. And that's kind of like broken in some ways. Like there are mids that are supposed to hit that don't hit. There are lows that are supposed to hit that don't hit her. And it's crazy. Like there were Tekken pros breaking down clips of it, just showing every character in the roster throwing these attacks that should hit, but they don't, saying like, yo, this shouldn't be the case. And so I'm curious if Harada's going to listen and make a change there or not. And now I got a buddy of mine who was maining Asuka and now he's moving into Zhao Yu. I'm just like,
oh yeah,
but it's fine because as I play more ranked, I'm going to run into her a ton anyway. So it's like, all right, at least I get very familiar with it. But it's just one of those things where, as a Claudio and Yoshi player right now, I play with honor and humility, and then we got these dudes who are dodging frames out here. A little sickening, I won't lie.
Well, that's how you made. I'm watching y'all. It's y'all run right now, but I'm watching y'all. It's very spooky, the stuff that I'm seeing. So we'll see.
As for some of the games I'm playing, Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World still kind of like a daily thing. Get a game or two in. Been messing around more with the deck builds. For those who are playing, you know what I'm talking about. I've fallen into my Android deck here. Ramp focus, so I'm building up energy quicker than I typically would, putting out big bodies on the board. I messed around with Goku Black, which was a really cool deck where you can like remove a card from the board and it lowers the cost of another card. And you play out this big boss monster way earlier than you should. But the one that I've really fallen in love with,
what you got?
Of course, my favorite character, nonetheless. And what a week to kind of be talking about that because of Akira Toriyama's passing, sadly. Is Trunks. And we have a write about Akira that we'll get into in a moment here. Yes. But Trunks is my favorite character. And so one of my favorite characters in all of entertainment, but definitely my favorite Dragon Ball character. And he had a deck that a lot of people call in the community the big brain deck. Because like what you can do is bounce back cards to your hand or opponent's cards to your hand. And a lot of effects on the other cards in your deck play with that. And so like what you can do is like play a card, search for one in your deck, grab it, bounce it back, play it again, and just like get a ton of cards in hand, basically, which is valuable in Dragon Ball for those that don't know. And so I love this deck because I'm just big braining everything. Like there are cards I have that when I play them on the field, and if I have 7 or less cards in hand and then I bounce something back, I draw 2 cards and I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to attack. I'm going to spend a little bit here, because then I'm going to bounce that back anyway, and then I'm going to draw 2. It's just like this weird big brain kind of game, man. I love it. So yeah, I've been playing that a lot. Spent a little more money on it because I wanted to get a couple more cards. Now I've got everything. I got everything, but it did run me like 150. So yeah, that's my spending for the set. It's done, but it's definitely not free to play friendly. But I already knew I was going to wail on this thing. Again, I defend myself and say it is cheaper than what I would typically spend on a set when I was playing it in person, where I was buying the physical cards times 4. Like all you need in the DBS card game online, which is great, is you just need 4 of a card and you could put them in any deck. But in real life, it's like once I put 4 in some decks, I can't use them in others because now they're sleeved up, they're over there, and I got to deconstruct that deck, build somewhere else. So I am, I swear, not spending as much as you may think I am, but I will admit I am flopping around in the ocean like a big whale when it comes to DBS Card Game Fusion World. So I've been enjoying that. Finished another chapter in Rebirth, so we're on 12 now. We're nearing the end.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime I play this game, fantastic. Like, the story is so good. Still a little gimmicky. Like, Square Enix just doesn't want... I think they're afraid you're going to get bored with the game because, like, this isn't a spoiler, but there's a dungeon that involves throwing around boxes, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, why? I'm like, it was like an hour and a half long dungeon, and like, you're not playing as Cloud, and you're throwing boxes around. I'm like, why? Like, this... it could have been shorter. It could have been snappier, but they like got all. I mean, it's not bad. It's just like, why? But you know what I'm recognizing is I complained about these little gimmicks that I found in Remake when I first played it, and I came to appreciate them over time. I'm like, oh, it was so different. So I'm having that moment again with Rebirth quicker, where I'm like, at first I was ready to complain, and it still is like, oh, why? It's so weird. But now I'm like, well, that's kind of what makes this game great. I'm like, it's just doing these weird PS1 era things where it's like, you didn't have to do that, but you just kind of did. And like, I think a few games can get away with that. Any other game would be called like padding, filler, bullshitting around. But I'm like, with Rebirth, I'm like, go for it. Cool. Like, Final Fantasy VII was a very gimmicky game, so it just makes sense that they do that with their dungeons too. So I've been playing that. That's been fun. And more Tekken 8.
Woo. Nice.
Yeah, we're still... This hasn't been a week of training. I've been, working a shit ton because anytime I get ready to go away, I got to prepare a few videos ahead of my trip. And I had to get a lot of ads done and stuff. Retro Rebound recorded. Some other stuff we're working on recorded. So there's a lot of like prep work. So I was really just hopping on Tekken 8 with my friends and just playing online and continuing to get more comfortable with Yoshimitsu. Right now, it's still looking pretty good for me. My mix-up game with him is really strong. I have a combo that does a lot of damage to them, as I talked about last week. That's very much bread and butter. If I get you against the wall, it's going to hurt with that character. Like, because there's a wall combo I have where if you splat and I see you like this, like
your body do this,
yeah, when I see you like this, it's over because I'm in the Manji Dragonfly, right? I'm just floating up with my sword, and it's like I think it's forward 1-2. And you just spin in a circle like 4 times and just slash away. And bro, I watched that health bar disappear. It is a great feeling. It is a great feeling when I land that.
Nice.
I have another option in that combo that does a little less damage, and it's good for when I'm not like wall splatting.
Yeah.
But dude, it is a fun character to play as. I really like. I actually might like him more than Claudio. I really, yeah. Like, I know I'm better with him than Claudio. I think Claudio has been usurped. Like Claudio, everyone in my group like whenever they want to fight my best, they're like, Matt, take out Claudio. I'm like, are you sure? Because like, like this is the best, and Claudio's like still really good, but I think the problem with my Claudio is my combos aren't as strong as they used to be.
Gotcha.
Because I don't know if you have this issue, but when I transition characters in Tekken 8, it's like, yeah, like there's like that first round for me is always a little bit of like, I'm pressing the wrong inputs.
Yeah, feeling out.
And so I shorten combos just to make sure I'm getting some damage in. And so my Claudio combos, which used to be like 8-9 hits, are like 5-6 now. So I've lost a little bit of the edge there. But I know his frame's better than any character in this game, where like I know when I got you open and I know when I can hit you. Like that's the thing is it's tough. Like I got to get there with Yoshi. So it's, I guess you could argue they're in the middle, but yeah, I've really just been enjoying messing around with these two. My next step, once I feel like I got Yoshi in a place where I can kind of stand pat with him for a little bit, because he'll put his sword away and his hands are lethal too, bro. This guy doesn't need a sword to dice people up. It's great. So that's my next step. But once I get him mastered, I've been toying around this idea. I'm curious what you think about it. If your friend group does this, because you guys have so many rules. What are the rules on a meme character? As in,
an example, like
picking a character that's not meta or not great, like Zafina, like very complex, very gimmicky. I wouldn't say Lee is a good character as an example, but like he needs perfect inputs to be like really good, I think.
Yeah, he's a high level expert. Yeah, once you know his perfect input stuff.
Not like Kuma or Panda, but like characters that are like Shaheen, like characters you don't see often.
Right. I know what you mean.
That are decent and that you make really good. Like that's what I want my third character to be. Like this very off the wall, like, what's this dude Oh no.
Yeah. No, we love that. We do that as like a lot of times that'll be our thirds. Like usually we have our top two, and I kind of like characters like that. Like to be honest, that's how Marduk started for me. In Tekken 4 when he debuted, but again, he's just conventional. No one really knows about him. He's not really the top of any metas like that. So it's just like, okay. And you're like, hold on, Gog's getting really good with him. Like Gog's showing me the strength of what this character can do. So yeah, we love stuff like that. I love seeing, characters that don't have high usage rates show up in the rotation, or guys say, hey, I'm going to take him for a spin and see what's up. So yeah, we welcome that. It's always about, to me, Tekken is always about the matchup. There are certain characters that really match up very well against others. And then there's ones that you'd be like surprised, like, yo, he's giving this top character a problem. Like right now, like shout out to one of my boys, he is annoying as hell with Alyssa. And he's doing all this range 3 floating and kicking you and hitting you low and taking his head off and putting it in your hand. And Elisa could be she was giving Harang a problem.
Yeah. No, she's dangerous. She hits she'll hit you 3 times and do like more damage than most of my combos. I'm like,
bro, and the range she got, and she's flying up, and then his missiles and his things. And another character right now who's Jack 8, bro. Jack could be a problem. He's not like
he was the one character I was messing around with in my head of like if I wanted to pick a meme character, but I'm like, he's kind of nice though. So
he's nice. Yeah. Like Jack is nice. I remember Jack used to be the meme character for Tekken for years until probably like the last 2. Now he's like formidable. But there's characters like that. There's always the matchup. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting in the dojo. I don't like losing my number 1 to that guy. I'm gonna have to work on some things. So yeah, that's what it is. So I think for me. And for you, to answer your question, yes, to be in characters. And then for me, what I learned is that you got to know your ranges. And I think for me, one of my weaknesses that I had to work on still right now is what I consider the range 3, the really far, when the battle gets separated, someone gets blasted, and then there's that distance, right? And controlling that distance or getting in safely and out safely kind of thing. So that's what it is for me. But yeah, the main characters and characters that don't get a lot of run, I love that stuff to see them.
Yeah, we actually had a write-in here for Just Spartan. It says, hey, Dukes, I mentioned it on Iron Lords and thought I'd do the same here. I've always been a casual fighting game player. Never went past simple combos and Smash and MK, but these past couple of episodes made me want to give Tekken a try. I have to say I'm loving it so far. The combat feels fun and rewarding, and the visuals and music are on point. For fun, I decided to try Cogsman Hwoarang, and even though I'm still not great, I never thought I'd be looking up guides and hitting the dojo to try new combos. Any tips, from the Dukes for a newcomer? Have I'm working on King kind of day. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Ooh,
King is still funny. A problem in this game, man.
King is top level.
Yeah.
King is high level. And I know what he's talking about what I'm working on. That was a joke from my LP. When, that was an inside pause joke that I think Attic or Sov said to King. Sov said to King, and he's like, whoa, what you mean you working on me? You be the character in Tekken. And it turned into a whole thing. So Just One definitely watches our LP.
Good. That's so good.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
You're the vet, man. Like, what's a newcomer got to know for Tekken 8?
For Tekken 8 in general, I always tell people, don't leave heat on the table. People playing Tekken like it's just regular fighting, and you have the heat ability once per round. Use it. You know what I'm saying? And then I would also say you'd be surprised. Like a lot of people get caught with rage arts sometimes.
Yeah.
Like they get I used to be like that. I get so caught up in the mix. You beating somebody down to their health is almost nothing. You forget at that moment they get a rage art. And you can get caught and get the whole match stolen from you. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, 1, always use your heat, whether it be moves that get you into heat or just pressing the heat button and doing that natural heat move that it's an armor move so you can do it safely and so it puts you in an offensive state to chip away. Don't leave it on the table. A lot of guys, I'm like, yo, sometimes I'm watching my homies fight when I've been spectating when in the player match. I'm like, bro, what's up? Like, it was one of my guys, Sinister. He's so good. Now he does it. I'm like, bro, my boy, Lord Wrath. I'm like, bro, you even use your heat for like 2 rounds, bro. What's going on? Like, use it. It's part of the new mechanics. And now people are getting in there. So I would say that. Also, your defense, your defense, I know you want to smash everybody. Sometimes that patience and waiting and seeing what someone is doing.
Patience is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Blocking. Sometimes I get caught. I'm a very aggressive player, so sometimes I'm flailing and people just, okay, wait, pop them up. And I'm like, it's my own fault. I'm telegraphing. I'm being too predictable. So I would say defense, knowing when to strike, getting a read of an opponent, those are the basics. And then, like I said, there's no shame in going into that replay and looking at the matches you lost and seeing what you're doing wrong. And have you tried it yet? Taking control?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
cool.
helped a lot. Yep. It's really good.
It, again, you could just because it's muscle memory. It's helping you like, okay, this is what I need to do and stuff like that. And then there's also some things that the high level stuff, you got to know when someone is frame trapping you. You got to know there's certain things they're trying to bait you into a response because they have the frame data advantage over you. And sometimes you still got to block and let that combo finish out, then punish, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So yeah, that's basic. Get your basics up. Don't be afraid and learn from your losses. I learned from all my losses, man. Don't take the losses so hard where it gets you out of it. But like, okay, I see what I got to fix here. I got to find something to stop this. I'm struggling with this particular move that this person does, and it's annoying. Like, what can I do for that? And that's what I hyper focus on someone's strength. I'm gonna take that away from you. You get me with that move too much. Yeah. So that's the key for me too. What about you?
I think for me, when I turned a corner with Tekken 8, because I thought I took Tekken 7 seriously, but I look at I'm just way better of a player than I was in the last game. I think I turned a corner when I stopped only attacking with combos. So every attack I did in Tekken 8 when I first started, I was just getting wiped, was always a combo start, like an uppercut, or like Claudio has this like sweeping up kick, or his down 1-2. Like he's got a bunch of combo setups that are all great. But what I realized is that was the only way I was attacking for a while, because once you get that, you can turn that into like 80 damage. That feels great. But what I learned, I'm like, that doesn't win matches. Like I've hit opponents, I've opened matches with a fucking crazy combo, and I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, and I lose clean after that because you don't know how to fight beyond the combo, and so you lose. And so what I told my friend,
advice.
I'm telling you, I told my friend this. He was trying the same thing to us. He picked up Tekken last month. We've been playing every day. I'd say, but like we told him, I was like, dude, you're just not getting better. And he's like, oh, I'm studying and labbing. I'm like, no, you're not. I said, you're just trying to do combos. I said, bro, I want next time we face off, come in with your jabs and your mix-ups. And I said, I guarantee you will get more rounds off of us. And what happens? He beat me. He beat one of my friends. He beat me a second time. Like he came in way better because it's less of, the combos are great. You need to know how to punish. But think of it like that. Like when your opponent makes a mistake, like they swing and they whiff, step in and uppercut, right? Like get in and just punish them. And so like when I told that, like Claudio has like a back, I think it would be 3-4. I'm not good with the numbers yet, but anyway, it's like a low mid. It's a low kick, quick mid, and so it's not a ton of damage, but does enough where it's like it's a safe hit is what they're called. Like it's a guaranteed hit. You're gonna do a little damage on your opponent, and you do that because then it provokes a response. Because usually when they get hit, most players are like, all right, I'm coming back at you, and if you know the frames for your attacks, where it's like, oh, I got like a Yoshimitsu has like an 11 frame uppercut. So he has like a down 1-2, which is low mid, does a quarter damage. And then I've followed it up sometimes with an uppercut because the opponent immediately goes like, all right, now it's my turn. And they go to punch me and I uppercut them. And now I got them at like below half health. Oof. So that was like that's the biggest advice I can give you. Know your mix-ups, know the one-shot attacks that just are quick and do a lot of damage. Like Yoshi's up 2. He just jumps up in the air and slices down. He's got a shit ton of range. Like you can't even touch me when I'm up there if I'm at full range. And it's a low, it knocks you down. So it's really good. And it's just it's because like when he goes up, you're thinking like, oh, he's gonna slam down on me, so I'm gonna guard high. And so you gotta find those moves that and then it's about mixing them all up. It's like, because what your best rounds in Tekken will be when you're just pulling out every move from the playbook. I recommend watching these YouTuber FiddyX, PHID.
Oh, that's my man's. Yeah,
bro.
He's technical, bro.
He's
so
a
technical.
genius.
Yes, he's so good. He's
so smart. He's taught me pretty much everything about Tekken 8 from this point, just from his videos. Like he does just
mindset. He's all about mindset.
He's deep in it though. He talks about the physiological effects. Like, he like said one time, he's like, go in the lab 5 minutes. He's like, you don't want to be in here for 30 minutes. He's like, 5 minutes. He's like, go do something else. He's like, your brain has to process it, then come back and play. I'm like, this dude's built different. I was like, that's
FiddyX is nice. Yeah. I like him. Another one I would say. His name, the main man, SWE. He's really good too. He's funny. He's a bit aggressive with certain things. He's a Cavs player, but he understands Tekken, and he also has these quick things. What I like about him too is he has these little quick things. If you want to learn a new character, what are kind of the essence of how the character is supposed to play on a professional level. Yeah, he's good like that. If you're Hwarang Ming, my man K Wiss is beast out here. There's now in the age. With his YouTubers for every character.
Yeah, I found one for Yoshi, and he just made like 18 Yoshi videos. I'm like, wow. And post-patch ones, I'm like, oh, this is a treasure trove. This is what I needed.
I just found a Raven player. I'm like, I don't understand about. I'm like, I just got is just a Raven main, and I'm like, oh. Yeah. So that's my third, trying to build about. So yeah, man, it's Tekken is just a beautiful game, man. You go down to treasure trove, and but your strategies that you said are key for a beginner, because what we used to do, me and Kaibatsu, we would expose guys who we call them the combo guy. They saw the combo, they go for the high damage, but when it's taken away, they can't fight.
Yeah.
And we would beat the hell out, because once we block your combo, now what? You're exposed. You don't know what to do in a regular one-on-one situation because we took away your joint. And that's what we do. So you got to learn your 1-2s, your frame shot, like you said, jabs and stuff, and setting up little moves to set up the thing. Yeah. But once you start flowing, is that variety of moves start coming out in different scenarios. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. It's a dance at that point.
Yeah. Neutral game is huge. Like a lot of my combos come from the neutral with Yoshi, like because his uppercut, as an example, like he just steps into it. So when I see someone immediately starts to, like, I create distance, like he has this Kincho stance, and then I
hate guys
them,
like you.
And it bounces them back, and they're like,
a problem.
You could just see them freeze every time. They're like, shit,
what to do?
And then they step in, and I'm like, uppercut, and that's it. Like,
you gonna give me problems, because I can tell those type of characters with the with the unpredictability. Hwarang struggles like, okay, what is he doing?
Yeah, because you got to be in my face with him, right? That's your game plan. But that's where I struggle with Yoshi, because he's like quick at times. But like if you're up in my face, like that's a problem. That's why I like those moves. I'm like, get back.
Yeah,
I need space. Let me breathe.
That's what the homies do to me. They be like, hold on, Cogs cooking. Let me back away from him, create space, try to get open. But it's the right strategy, because I'm gonna put you in. But my friend's got a word for it. Like if I get you in this mix. You're going to have to guess.
Yeah.
And I'm going to outthink that you're not. I'm going to keep switching up my stuff, because I can get you in traps, and they don't want any part. They're like, oh my God, I can't stand when you get in that mode. When you get in that mode, and it's just this unpredictability with Hwarang, and you don't know if it's low, mid, high. We don't know what's going on. And I'm like, yes, I got them now. Yeah. But when they do that stuff, it's like, oh my God, now I'm off balance. I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, what is he doing? And when I'm not uncertain, they like, yeah, they got me now. Like, so it's the cat mouse, man. It's the cat. It's the beauty of Tekken.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we hope you enjoy your time with Tekken 8, Just Spartan, and let us know how the tips pay off.
Yeah, let us know, man.
All right, got a couple of warm up questions here. Before we begin, let's talk about Akira Toriyama. I was just on an episode of Constellation, and we spoke extensively, almost like an hour, about Toriyama's work, his impact. But the Uncharted Wolf writes in, "What up, Dukes? Like everyone else, the news of Akira Toriyama's death has hit me hard. As a big Dragon Ball fan, I decided now is the time to finally check out his other major series, Dragon Quest. I know neither of you have checked out this franchise, but I'm 2 games in and already loving it. Would you ever be down to check out this franchise anytime soon? Also, do you think that Dragon Quest 12 will finally hit Xbox consoles day and date? Thanks for what you guys do, and take care of your health." Thank you for writing in, Uncharted Wolf. I do think that Dragon Quest 12 will hit Xbox, just because we've renewed that partnership with Square Enix. And so I feel like, this is one of those things like, I think they got Dragon Quest 11 day and date, if I remember.
Yes, they did.
So I think 12 is a shoe-in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think 12 is a shoe-in. I remember when 11 came day and date. That was a big deal at the time in Game Pass.
Yeah.
And like you said, you nailed it. Once that, 12, once the relationship is better, I anticipate that things are smooth sailing. So yeah, 12 definitely is going to play. Yeah, but I gotta play. We had Genki on from Japan, and he told us, he's like, we asked him how big Final Fantasy is. Crazy. He's like, yeah, it's cool, but nothing's bigger than Dragon's Quest. I was like, damn, it's like that in Japan. He was like,
yeah, Dragon Quest is huge.
Yeah, that's the game. So I said, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Dragon Quest is a major blind spot in my JRPG catalog. Like, I know nothing about Dragon. I know it's like a classic like JRPG, if you will, as in, I don't know if it has any other super special mechanics, but it's one of those series I have no experience with outside of playing the Dragon Quest 8 demo. I have Dragon Quest 8 in my PS2 collection, but actually, I'm sorry. I did play also a demo. I played an hour of the Dragon Quest 11 demo.
Yeah.
And the main reason I wanted to play that is because the main character looked like Android 17, who is one of my favorite characters in Dragon Ball. And so it's just like, I mean, that speaks to what Toriyama did so well. His character design was phenomenal, as I talked about on Constellation. Like, it really resonates with me. Like, there's very few artists you can look at and say like who their name is and be like, that's their style. But like Toriyama's, not just his characters, Dagan pointed out, was so smart. Like the world he builds, like the technology you see, like he's just so refined, so unique, so fresh. And it's like a world you want to live in. Like I want to, even though the Dragon Ball world's like blowing up constantly, I still, if you live in West City, you're on the map for some type of attack at some point. But you just look at that place and you're like, man, this is so cool. Like I want to be here. I want to stay here. So yeah, I mean, and they're games that allow you to explore those, like DBZ Kakarot being one of the more recent ones. Just real special experiences. So my main connection with Toriyama is through Dragon Ball, like many. And when you just look at how far ranging his work is, like Sandland's coming out next month. That was one of his older mangas, and that's getting a full on game next month, and that's going to hit different. I was already looking forward to it, but I'm like really, jonesing for it now. Dragon Quest, though, is like a big blind spot. But we have this other question here for you, Cog. Neo JD writes, "Greetings, Dukes. We heard from Matty on Akira Toriyama and Stelly, and I was wondering what his effect was on Cog. Second, have either of you played Blue Dragon, one of the rare Xbox console exclusives on multiple discs?" And this was another one that had the Toriyama art style. For those who don't know, it was the game that came from Mistwalker, who made one of my favorite JRPGs ever in Lost Odyssey. Just in case anyone wants a little pedigree there. But he said, thanks and have a Kamehameha kind of day. Thank you, Neo, for writing in. So, Cog, I spoke super extensively on Constellation about this, even though it was Dustin's topic. But of course, I want to hear from you. Like, Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball, and his many other IP, like, have you had a lot of interaction with these, if any impact at all?
Sadly not. And I hate when things like this happen, because unfortunately now it gives me the proper perspective of how influential he was. I was never a Dragon Ball Z guy. I was super late to the series. But one thing I will always say, as a person who never really watched and, pretty stayed clear of it, one thing I always remember was the distinct art style. And the thing that I liked was the eyes. The eyes are always full of life. They were always, the characters, the way he drew characters were just really cool. Like, they were very cool looking. Obviously the Gokus and the Super Saiyan stuff and all. I was just like, man, this is some really powerful and vibrant art style, right? Sure. For me, it was the impact. And I think we talked about the ILP, because I said, look, I don't want to sound like a fool here and a fraud. Like, I was just hardcore. I was not, right? And it wasn't that I hated his art style. I just was late to the party, and I never really got a chance to get into it. Sure. And I remember one time I was like, all right, if I do it, they was like, oh, this was zillions. You got there's like a zillion episodes. I was like,
it's a lot. Was too much. Is long.
Yeah. I was just like, all right, I've missed this. I was out of this. But what interesting to me was the impact. And I'm seeing guys like Jackie Chan, pay their respects. I'm seeing him cross over into all these different pop cultures. And I think King said it best to help me get perspective. I was like, help me understand, because I'm watching, like, shout out to Dagan's Twitter. Like, Dagan's Twitter is really helpful for really giving you the context. King also said he's like Cog. He's like the Stan Lee of
That's a really good way of putting it.
And I was like, okay,
really good way of putting it.
Got it now. And the way Attic was explaining it, where like I guess Bleach and all these other stuff, like a lot of these guys are all inspired, like they're offspring of this guy.
Father of anime is what people are calling him.
Yeah. So that title really resonates with me. That impact really resonates. And I see some really heartwarming stuff. You know, I forgot what country it was, and they all gathered together, and they had like, you know, the form of one of the characters. It just looked really cool. He touched a lot of people, man, and it was just truly impactful. Just hearing the stories and what we see. So yeah, man. Again, I wish I had that connection that, you know, everyone else had, because I could tell this is a major loss. But I understand the impact, and I definitely want to pay my respects, because you know when I knew it was real, when like I think it was like Stephen A. Smith or Sports was doing a Toriyama. I was like,
wow,
yo,
I didn't know that. Yeah,
I'm like, this is when we have transcended, and for him to take anime, because I'm from the era where anime was like so niche, so underground. It was, you had to, you know, find it. No, for them to popularize it, make it mainstream was super dope. So,
yeah, I mean, he was the one who really, alongside One Piece, Naruto, like they were the three that came over to the West. And I mean, Pokemon, of course, being another one, but I don't even know if that was really considered anime by many people. They didn't know, I think, at the time. Like as a kid, like I remember up until high school, I was like kind of anti-anime, which is hilarious to think about now. But I was fine watching Dragon Ball and Pokemon, because I in my head, I probably thought they were fucking cartoons. Like I guarantee so many people tricked themselves into that. Naruto being another one that I secretly watched when I realized that was anime. But yeah, man, like Toriyama was, and his work was largely responsible for a massive breakthrough in the West. And it just speaks to how these characters resonated, how the art style called out to people. The story being like, Z is a classic, bro. Z is an absolute classic. From the Saiyan saga to Majin Buu, like that is there's a reason why that story's been retold so many times in video games. It's a little redundant, but it's because like, even to this day, like you get something like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, like people love that story of Z. There's just nothing quite like it. So it's phenomenal. I think Super Story is also really good, if not a little too Goku Vegeta focused. But yeah, man, like just an incredible creative who just everything he touched turned to gold, truly. And he'll be missed, but he's left behind a massive catalog of stuff I have yet to experience. I mean, he even dipped his toes into games beyond like the major IP that he's worked on, like Dragon Ball and Dragon Quest. He did Chrono Trigger character design. Like, you know, that's the thing. He's just he was really influential. Like his art style defined the visuals for many generations, and to see so many like mangaka step out and celebrate his life in a way like we started because of Toriyama. Like, bro, there's not going to be another Toriyama for a long while, I imagine, because like he was, again, one of the breakthroughs that sort of set the playing field for these other artists to be like, this is normal, this is okay, we can do this and do it too. So it was just a perfect moment in time, and he was kind of at the center of it all.
Another thing where he touched me that I didn't realize it directly was that, remember, I wasn't in anime, but remember, my favorite PlayStation is PlayStation 1, right? Mm-hmm. There was a game that I loved that I think was 60 frames per second at the time. It was the first time I ever seen 60 frames, I believe. It was called Tobal Number 1. This was Toriyama helped design the game. And on All-Star, and I would love that game with King. I was like, oh, that was him? So you see him in Dragon's Quest and Chrono Trigger, where my boy Bontes goes absolutely crazy, that art style. But Tobal Number 1 was one of my PlayStation deep cuts. And I was like, oh, and now I found out that was it. This man's influence and impact is truly iconic. Yeah. So salute to the legend, rest in peace to him, the family, the loved ones, you know, the community's mourning, but also at the same time, everyone's come together to celebrate his life and the appreciation of all of these things he's contributed to the culture, to so many cultures. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. All right, we got one here that I'm surprised we finally got write-ins for this one, because it's a story that's been floating around, developing. Really, in particular, it's come to a head this last week, and it's about Sweet Baby Inc., which is really, if the name first popped up, to my knowledge, with the release of Suicide Squad. And this is a company that has come under fire from a lot of gamers. They're an inclusivity consulting firm for video game writing, effectively. And so they worked on Starfield, apparently. They worked on Alan Wake 2. They worked on Spider-Man 2. They worked on Suicide Squad. And they've been targeted as sort of the reason for a lot of these games not being up to snuff in certain areas and forced inclusivity in parts where maybe it didn't belong otherwise. And so there's been a kind of concentrated attack on them, even to the point where there was a Steam page that was like designed to sort of target the games that they've worked on or are working on so people could actively avoid them. But there's been more beyond all of that. I mean, there's been bad interactions between the people working there and like comments they've made after Akira Toriyama passed, for example. Not good. We'll talk about all this. They're covered in 2 write-ins here.
Okay, cool.
But this is just me giving the top-down view. There's been not doxing, sorry, but trying to think of the word where you basically send your audience to attack. I'm losing my vocabulary today, I swear to God. But you send your whole audience to attack an individual. But yeah, put them on blast completely for making this Steam group. So it's looking more and more like we have a guilty party here. But we'll talk about that extensively now. Normal People Sack Shop writes in, "Ahoy Dukes, this isn't an easy one. Recently, a gamer from Brazil took it upon himself to make a curated games list and community on Steam to highlight games influenced by a certain consultation studio, all with publicly provided information from their own website. Upon discovering this person and a group of an employee decided it would be a great idea to gather their community to flag the other in an attempt to silence and remove them. A Kotaku journalist even thought it would be cool to publicly announce they infiltrated their Discord and asked why the users doing this have their actual profile photos attached to their Discord profiles in an attempt to dox them. Kotaku would go on to publish an article written by this person while completely excluding how it started with Sweet Baby Inc. trying to silence gamers. Gamergate is certainly here. My only question is this behavior excusable in any context, or as gamers, should we be forced to remain silent when we see things we dislike in the industry and want to inspire change? Love you guys. Hopefully. Meanwhile, get the second right in here. Don't doubt us so much, Sack Shop. Come on now. We have Mr. Scott, if you're nasty, writing in, "Dukes, please pick the Sweet Baby Inc. topic. My X feed is inundated with game developers and games media defending Sweet Baby Inc. They seem to ignorantly or purposely, in my opinion, misread the situation and insinuate people who disagree with them are bigoted, all while ignoring news regarding a developer hired by Cliffhanger Devs who stated that they didn't hire any white people because white people commit microaggressions. Additionally, you have a Kotaku journalist tweet that you can't be racist against white people. This behavior has been disgusting. The witness in the US, only the people on the margins care about minority characters, well, when the story is good and or the gameplay is great. The problem is that these characters often seem forced. The gameplay is usually mid at best, and there is often blatant political messaging built in. Most people hate this, and I think it should be called out. It's quite clear to me the only diversity that's lacking within this industry is diversity of thought. This industry asked me to care about their layoffs, and I just don't. It seems like a lot of these developers, writers, and journalists deserve a hard lesson. Have a great day, Dukes." Very stern words from the audience here, Cog. We did our research a little bit before this because I'll admit I wasn't fully brushed up on the situation. I heard about it during my coverage of Suicide Squad, but I didn't think it demanded a video at the time. But now it's branched to multiple games. It's branched into the gaming community. And there's even this article here that I can send your way. Oh, I almost put this in our timestamps. That would have made no sense. This article here with like screenshots and timestamps that goes over the boycott, how it began, a little bit of damage control, telling people to report the group that was made, and spreading a lot of, I think, disingenuous information here. But nonetheless, Cog, I want to get your thoughts on from the top here on what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. And if you think what they're doing here and the response broadly, where even journalists are kind of backing them up, is warranted. I remember I found an article, I believe it was from gamesindustry.biz, which said effectively that like they're being targeted. And I think targeted is a fair term, but that
gamesindustry.biz said that?
I think it was Games Industry. I'll double check. Sorry. I'll double check in a moment because I don't want to false flag someone. But an article I was reading was effectively saying like, you know, they were being unfairly targeted. Whereas don't know how if I can agree with that, but I want to get your thoughts first on the matter here of what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. and their pretty much doxing of individuals that have decided to not support them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning kind of like you. I saw the name pop up, and I just want to be full disclosure. I'm still learning, right? So anything I say now, there still could be edits, or my opinion may be modified on some level as I get more information. I'm just going to go by what I know at this point.
It's gamedeveloper.com, by the way. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. That was
Games Developer. Okay,
I'll link it for you. But.
Okay, thanks. So gamesdeveloper.com. Well, it said they felt they were targeted. Look, this is what I know. In the industry, we know there's these kind of like DEI groups, right? And these consulting groups where, they come in and they're like, hey, we can help your studio or your game and help educate you on, diversity, inclusion. And I think that at its core is not a problem. As obviously I'm speaking as a Black man, so I have to be honest about the fact that as a person growing up in the games industry over 40 years, a person like myself never see characters like myself, never seen stories told from any other perspective from the general consensus, right? So, which is generally white males. I'm just going to be brutally honest, right? So I do think, one, there is a need for that based the way our country is established. And we just got to be honest about that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just talking from a Black man perspective, from a Native American perspective, from, there's different groups that have overcome hardships. So in gaming, it's only right that part exists. So I think the existence of these consulting groups are necessary. And I do feel that not everybody, because not everyone is a bigot, right? But there are some people who don't want that at all. They want the status quo of how things used to be all the time. So I will push back slightly on that because there's a part of me that's like, look, we need to also tell other stories. Now here, let's get to the Sweet Baby part, the main event, why people are here, right? Look, at first I was like, okay, seems harmless, like a DEI group. You could choose to, include them or not, choose to take their advice or not. The first comment I think one of the speakers was saying was like, hey, if you don't use us, whatever, like you would be in a world of hurt. I didn't even overblow at that because I was like, okay, you know what? They're trying to save people. These groups would try to say things like that to save people from, I don't want to say a political disaster, but some type of, you get into a controversy because you didn't get something right or, in terms of, diversity, equality, inclusion stuff. Where it went left for me with the Sweet Baby thing was I don't like that you have to modify what your standards are or update on your group or try to silence a group for saying, hey, these are the games they worked on. Yeah. When I see that, my eyebrow goes up because it's like, okay, if your intention is pure and this is what you set out to do, you here just to, hey, I'm just here to educate. We're going to get these games to people to know that we're going to DI, you're going to implement it right. But if you're silent to the group that says, hey, these are the games you worked on, and then you're going out these measures to kind of be aggressive to attack, then it does lead me to be suspicious of you as to, are you hiding anything? Or because if you're doing what you say you're doing and that's all that you're doing, then there's a part of me, and I don't want to get too conspiracy theory because I'm still learning. Do you have more power than initially believed? And that's the question right now. And I think that's going to be revealed. I'm just letting this thing play out. I'm trying to be as fair as possible because I do, as a person who is pro diversity and pro inclusion, I do hear the other side of people saying, hey, some things feel forced. Some things, I will give the people on the other side this. I'm all about diversity and inclusion. However, if you are putting this in conjunction with the source material, if you are throwing things that really don't make sense to the source material just for the sake of doing it, to me, it's gonna not bode well. It's not gonna incorporate well. It's not gonna be, a story. And here's the other thing too, is like, I also want to say, like, just because a game has it, doesn't necessarily mean, oh, this is, everything is just woke trash. I'm not there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get into this extreme. There's some people who are very extreme with this, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not there. But again, in conclusion, as I'm learning, the mission of the group, I don't have an issue with. I think it's needed in gaming. However, this particular group's actions seem to be a little funny style on certain things. And when I see funny style behavior, now I got to investigate and look at you deeply. So that's just where I'm at with it. I'm still learning. I don't want to make these broad statements just yet. But unless I'm dying to hear from you, you may have got more information than me, because I've been looking at his periphery, but I'm curious where you stand on it, because that's where I'm at with. I just don't like the silencing and
yeah.
All right, let's get the elephant out the room. You can't say there's no way a white person can't be like, that's wild.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's the thing where I almost didn't think to address that, because I'm like, that's so fucking wild to say.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm a black man. I'm telling you, that's wild. You can't make that statement. Yeah. This group is incapable of being racist. That's ridiculous. So I just had to get that out. Yeah. But anyway, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, it's obviously a touchy subject, but I think it's much more straightforward than other big scale game controversies. I look at it from this point of view. Like I look at it from a writer point of view rather than like a commentator. Like I am writing my own game, and like I do know inclusivity and these types of things matter, and they matter to me as like a person, not just like a creative who's like, I gotta make sure I've checked all my boxes. I think what the people are pushing back against, and Sweet Baby Inc. may just serve as that kind of representation of it, is this notion that we need to hire people to do inclusive writing when it's supposed to be organic. The best sort of inclusive writing done that involves all races, all genders, and represents these stories that are previously untold is when it's done well and right. Otherwise, these consultancy groups kind of just get laughed at. And when I look at the response they're getting to like, hey, here's games they've worked on that maybe you felt their influence in. I think in particular, you look at games like I think right now we don't have a tangible, when I say tangible, I mean, you look at like, oh, we know for a fact Sweet Baby Inc. wrote this or directed this scene. But right now we have reason to speculate. I mean, look at Spider-Man 2, a lot of inclusivity focused side content in that game. You look at something like Suicide Squad and the way, say, Harley Quinn is portrayed as a character, very much a far cry. By the way, in the Arkhamverse, very much a far cry from the character that she was in the Arkham trilogy. There's a really strange difference there that I pointed out in my review. And so people are theorizing that when you see the consistent involvement and the dramatic shifts in characters and approach to content, especially like, I don't know if Sweet Baby Inc. worked with the first Spider-Man, but you look at that side content versus the second game side content. And I'm not saying it's a problem, but like it's a huge difference like in what they're focusing on in that game. Like you have a side quest where you're running around as Miles' girlfriend, and it's definitely like an inclusivity focused side quest. Like they take away the sound and everything. And so I think those moments when they're kind of out of nowhere to gamers, like I'm trying to come at it from this angle, feel forced. They do. And that doesn't, and I think what the reason people are afraid to say
Mary Jane
that,
missions.
Yeah, like I just think what happens is people are afraid to say that because they think they're going to be labeled as like a bigot or something like that. It's like, no, I'm not a bigot for saying like, hey, this didn't feel handled well. Like this just felt out of nowhere. It felt like there was an abnormal focus here, and there's ways to organically include that into the content and elevate that story rather than it being a checklist. Like, okay, we represented this demographic, like who's next? That's not how you do it, in my opinion. And we'll see how it comes to blows when my game comes out and how I've written it. You know, I've tried to be inclusive, but not in a way that's heavy-handed. I've tried to craft characters where, depending on their backgrounds, it's organically woven into the story. At least that's how it's going with our editing passes. We feel like we've done a good job with that. I'm not trying to lift my product above others, but you know, I'm looking at it from that angle where I would almost take issue more with the executives who are going out and hiring the consultancy firms to check the writers when it should be a natural talent within your writing team to write these organic stories that tell you about these walks of life. I mean, unless they're not, I feel like the industry is so much leaning in that direction of like, we have to tell these stories that everyone's considering them. It's just about how you do it. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, this is a great discussion, and you're helping me understand both sides of this argument. I guess I'm not defending Sweet Baby. I just want to talk about the DEI group because I need to learn more about Sweet Baby. But I guess for me, the problem I have with the organic part is that we got to be honest too, with that the percentages of people in color or of different sexualities in gaming is low. We got to be honest with that. And I've spoken to devs. I don't want to out this person because this person really told me something in comments. So I'm going to not mention the person's name. But I do remember an executive who is a white male. Let's just say that. And was thinking about moving on from a big corporation, whatever. And he told me like, yo, the DEI from a hiring standpoint, this is where they want more. They kind of look like, hey, God, they want more of you and your type than me, kind of thing. And I was like, well, because we could openly talk about race, right? So I'm like, yo, how you feel about that as a white man? Like he's like, no, bro, it has to happen. He was just like, because he's like, there's few and hardly any, opportunities given. Now, granted, these people have to be of merit and have to qualify. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, just throw a blackface just because, sure. Throw whatever, a gay person or whoever, just because, you know what I'm saying? But so I think, again, the idea of the agency to me is still right because historically, it's just not that scale is still 90%.
Guys,
you know what I'm saying? It got to be, you know what I'm saying? So, so that part, I just want to be cognizant of that. I do understand though the force stuff, and I do understand again where it messes with the fabric of the developer's initial idea, and it just doesn't seem like it's a cohesive thing. So I get it. It's a tough one, man, because I do understand the other side. There's sometimes I'll be honest, and I saw stars like, they ain't really it. Or who are you asking for this DEI? Because that ain't it. Like I'm gonna tell you one. For spoke, I'm like, yo, who is down with this? From I don't know chicks from New York that sound like that. I was. Listen, and I was happy for a black female to be the lead. I'm not disrespectful, but I was just like, that didn't seem official. I should have hired the DEI from the ILP to come and tell you like how people in New York talk or, what I'm saying, kind of thing. So it's, I get it. This is a tough one for me because I'm still learning. Again, forgive me. I know I'm going to get upset a lot of people, but I just want to be clear for the existence. But with this group, there's certain things that do raise flags to me. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? Why are you silencing people? Why are you blocking people? Why? And again, I don't want to get too crazy, but when I see stuff like that, it tends to believe that maybe the rabbit hole, maybe I have to open my eyes that the rabbit hole may be deeper than I initially thought. And there may be some other things going on. So I don't know, man. It's tough.
It's a bit of a Streisand effect. It had 20,000 followers when they went to cancel it, and I from what I'm seeing here, it at least passed 191,000 followers now. So definitely a bit of a Streisand effect. I think the other problem people take with, because I get where you're coming from. Like I can't, as a white dude, like I can't see the world from you. I can take your perspective in, but I can't see the world from your eyes, right? So it's valuable what you're saying, and I think you make a good argument that stuff has a place. I think what happens is the people representing it just don't seem kind-hearted. Like what they're doing is like a benevolent work, right? And when you see their response is like, cancel this fucking dude, dox this dude.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's like a very consistent thing in gaming is the main people who are like preaching this sort of walk of life
Good point.
are the same people who seem the most evil. And I think that's the problem, because like what you're going for is totally correct. Like, yeah, we need more black leads. Like we need more diversity. Like that is important, especially in the worlds we're creating. Like it blows my mind that we're seeing like sci-fi worlds that are primarily white. I'm like, sci-fi is like the ultimate customization scheme. You can mech up everybody at different colors. Like it's a melting pot in those types of worlds, but we're still seeing that. So what you're saying is, I think, entirely correct. I think it's the people who represent it in gaming have that mightier than thou, that higher than thou approach. And so when they're challenged, you see them try to bring down the iron fist and the people fight back, right? And I think that's where it comes down to the organic stuff. It's like, clearly you don't mean well, but there are people out there who maybe do mean well. And there is a way to do this where, you know, I think it's of course telling the story right, but also the shifting of existing characters. I don't want to harp too hard on Harley Quinn, because again, I don't know if they're responsible for that. But she is like, the way she talks about Joker, she's like, yeah, my crazy ex. I'm like, dude, what? Like, why is she like, I said this in my review, by the way. So this is before I even knew about Sweet Baby Inc. I was like, why is she so firmly against the dude who she wrote and died for 3 games? She had his back to everything. And now he's the crazy ex in Suicide Squad, and she's shit talking him constantly. Like, it doesn't add up. And it's because what happens with a lot of these consultancy groups is they have no respect for the original source material, and they dramatically shift existing characters that had a template. Like, it's okay. Like Harley Quinn is, I believe, a primarily bisexual character. Like it makes sense the way she wants to swing. It just doesn't really add up in how, like, okay, we've established this, and now we're doing this. That's the problem I think people have, is like, no, we knew like this story was over here. Like people have a problem with like, say Miles Morales, with how he's like, that's Miles, right? He's been that since the start. He's grown from that since the start. So everything branching off of like that character and who he is, like it makes sense what he stands for, what he represents. There's no need to shift that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that is the problem that I would target at the root of it, is like execs hiring these firms that maybe mean well, but don't have the right people really backing it up. And gamers see that clear as day. Like gamers aren't as dumb as people make it out to be. So they're going to sniff this shit out in a heartbeat. And I'm not saying you got to vet every person at a consultancy firm. That's not realistic either. But it's also that a lot of these firms are like changing characters that, that I think don't need the dramatic overhaul. Like I think Starfield did something pretty novel where, we talked about it in our spoiler cast, but in the Vanguard quest line, there's a character that people were saying was transgender, but it went over my head. Like I didn't even receive this character as transgender. Like the way they used, I'll just say, with cloning and the connection to the main story. I was like, to me, and I'm not trying, I know people think I'm just trying to gas up Xbox and Starfield, but to me, I was like, that's how it's done. I was like, that was really fucking good. Not only did it go over my head in the sense, but when I made that connection, I was like, that makes sense. Like I could see how that speaks to a particular group of people, and they'd really like that, at the same time as enhancing the story for someone like me who doesn't see the world through that lens. So I think there's just right and wrong ways of doing it, unfortunately. And we're still learning as an industry as we grow that there's some people who are leading that charge that I don't know if they have the best intentions at heart, if this is how they respond to. And I get it, they're on their heels. But if this is how they respond, then you make the right point of like, you have to start looking at it with a questionable eye, especially when particular outlets are kind of gathering around it and looking at it going like, oh yeah, let's defend them. It's that same sort of journalistic armed forces mentality that we've seen in many years passing.
The cancel culture.
Yeah, the cancel culture. Yeah,
just call it what people call it.
I got too creative with it, but yeah. So I don't need to go on too long about it, because I don't want. You're right. Like it's still pretty fresh for me, and I'm not saying that to protect myself, because I'm just speaking more of like personal beliefs of mine. But it is still a fresh situation to me, so I don't want to get too overzealous and speak too much out about it. But I want to make sure we addressed it. But are there any other thoughts on not only what I shared there, but anything else you want to wrap up with on Sweet Baby Inc.?
No, this is a good one, man. This is a good one. I know this has come up recently, and again, I'm glad we did discuss it because it's important. And I think you made some fantastic points too in reference to those in control of these groups. Do they truly adhere to the message of what the goal of the group is supposed to stand for? Because if that's lost, then of course I'm going to have a problem. And again, as the person who loves diversity, who loves everyone, but we have to make sure we stick to our core principles of why we're doing it, right? And if it's to threaten, antagonize, and bully other people just who have opposing group, thing, then we have to look into that. And I think no one is absolved from judgment or investigation, right? Because if you truly have nothing to hide, then what it is. So we shall see. We shall see what it is. But I'm glad we did talk about it. Again, I'm learning every day, and I'm going to try to learn as much more as possible as I get more information coming. But thank you for bringing this. Shout out to the Rum and the Dukes for bringing this up. They wanted to talk about it.
Absolutely. All right, number one for the news. Sony has worked directly with Sea of Thieves developer Rare to help port the game to PlayStation 5, with Rare saying that they've actually been extremely helpful with things like regular calls and making sure the tech staff is actually available to bring the game over. This has led to Sea of Thieves being the number one pre-order for the weekend on the PSN store, beating out games like even Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm not gonna lie, Cog, I was a bit surprised by this. A bit surprised, not by PlayStation's willingness to help. Like, they make money off of this, and they know there's a zeitgeist to this, that if it works out in their favor, they do make some bread off of it. But I was a little surprised by the number one pre-order. I know it's for the weekend. We don't have sales yet. We don't know what the numbers are going to look like player count wise and all that stuff. But Cog, I have to say, I was surprised that Sea of Thieves was the one making the rounds here. So especially when one of our members of our audience pointed out that didn't have pre-orders up, and it was out much sooner. So this was an interesting catch by the audience. But nonetheless, Cog, what do you make of Sea of Thieves' pretty instant impact here on the PlayStation Network?
I guess Xbox has games now. Had to do it. Low hanging fruit. I'm sorry. Look, I am surprised, right? Beating out Dragon's Dogma, right? And to be the number one pre-ordered anything, this game was just fairly announced, on the platform. So what it tells me potentially is two things. One is that, again, kind of what Peter Moore alluded to earlier, which is, I think the hardcore maybe be overvaluing ourselves, right? We're overvaluing the impact of how things actually move in the industry. And what it shows me is that the majority of PlayStation players have an interest in this game, have always had an interest in this game. And now that they see it on their platform, right, in the ecosystem that they prefer, they are happy to at least give it a shot. So, that was very interesting to me. I will say the Rare article was pretty hilarious to me. I know we talked to the Discord a little bit behind the scene, and I just found it funny because we know these things are not created in overnight. These things are talked about months and months upon, sometimes a year in advance. And to see them working on it, like, we were excited to work with PlayStation. It's the first time Rare has ever worked with PlayStation. We were in frosted covered rooms and secret parts of the studio with PlayStation. Like, that part is hilarious to me. Like, there was the top secret subsection in the studio where they had the dev kits working on Sea of Thieves PlayStation version. I think that's kind of hilarious to me. But I just think, look, I'm going to keep it short and sweet in the sense that, listen, I know a lot of the hardcore Xbox community was furious, even at the announcement of one game going to PlayStation, right? But what it goes to show you, what if Xbox is correct in this strategy? This is the thing that people have not really been talking about. It's all about, I get it. The exclusives go there. It could potentially devalue the console. I get that there could be some truth to that. I'm not going to say it's far-fetched to think that. But what if this strategy gets them to relevance? What if this strategy, because we got to be honest in the digital ecosystem where everybody's chosen their library, there are people who are just not going to come over because of the Xbox One generation, how badly they lost it. And then the PlayStation is the dominant, brand, and Nintendo are dominant brands. And if you get these audiences to say, okay, it's on my platform, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. Oh, wow. Oh, I actually like this. Right. Mm-hmm. And it actually sells. So now this creates this whole new world we're living in. So that's the thing. I always said at the time of the announcement, what was the first thing I told you, man? I said, I am dying to see how the data comes back on these games. Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush. All these other platforms buying it. And Sea of Thieves seems to be the first to indicate they may be on to something. So very surprising. Didn't expect this. We still got to wait for the, the MPD stuff and all that. But it's a great sign. I mean, let's just be honest. We can't negate that the number one PlayStation pre-order is Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very impressive stuff. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
I thought of you right away. It definitely supports what I think was one of the arguments you made, which was about how there may be people, I think you just said it earlier, about like there may be people on one side of the fence who are looking at the Xbox games and going like, that looks cool. Not buying an Xbox for that though. And that many people were looking at Sea of Thieves as kind of like, that looks cool. Not buying an Xbox though. Not buying Game Pass. Not buying anything. I'll wait for it to come here. And well, this is just the first success story, it seems, in the making. Well, again, we'll see the final numbers when it's all said and done. But again, I've always said Xbox needs one success in this department to justify either or direction. I always said if they have a massive flops, they go, we brought over some games that we're a little unsure about. We played it safe. We want to see how a bigger game does. Or you have a success like this, number one pre-order on PSN the week before one of the most high-profile AAA games comes out, and you're sitting there like, yo, we already got a ton of money in, and this thing hasn't even hit yet. Mm-hmm. Let's bring over more, right? Like, who's stopping us? Like, they're going to make noise on Twitter. They're going to make their podcasts, and we're going to make bread. And it's going to be less noise this time because people are going to be used to it because they've already done it 4 times. Mm-hmm. So I think more and more the theory of additional games being at least announced to be going elsewhere in the second half will be a thing. And we did have a write-in. I apologize I didn't select it. I don't know why I didn't select it, but it was a mentioning of like what I've kind of touted, which is I think the burger, fries, and shakes are going to be the first to kind of make that leap because I think they're going to be the most appealing to the masses. I do. I think Forza Horizon 5 is an easy pick
for the big ones. Huh?
Oh man, dude, look, I know that's like one of their biggest, that's the biggest, but that's exactly why, like, bro, you're telling me that's not going to make them stupid cash when you're beating out Gran Turismo on the competing platform with your own product? Like, I don't know, man. I just, I'm not rooting for it. I'm just saying though, that I think this is a supporter to Xbox's argument potentially of like, they need to broaden their horizons because there are people who would like these games that otherwise wouldn't try. And now we're like, you can make the argument with Xbox, like people did ad nauseum with Starfield. It's not selling well until we finally had the proof like, hey, it's a top, I think 8 selling game this year. Like it sold well. But with something like Sea of Thieves with player count, it's kind of like, Microsoft's very like sales number agnostic. So you never truly know, but you can kind of gauge off a gut. But now we have PlayStation where the only way you get games is you buy them. And a lot of people are buying Sea of Thieves. So it just shows that Xbox, was right in their gauge right now that there are going to be people who are going to buy these things that they know would have, but they are going to come over to their ecosystem. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see. And I am curious which domino falls next. Like, do you think this is it? Do you think Sea of Thieves continues to succeed? And do you think any of the other 4 horsemen kind of show up in meaningful ways with numbers like Hi-Fi Rush? Do you think Grounded does make some noise? I feel like Grounded's got the most potential in a lot of ways because it's got the show coming. It's got that backyard feel to it. It's Obsidian. Like there's a level of polish there. It's a survival game, which I feel like just always these survival games find a way to the top of the sales charts. You look at some of the most popular games this year, Enshrouded, Power World. So to have now like your big survival game on all platforms from Obsidian, who's like a known quantity for quality nowadays, I feel like that could be a recipe for some major success. But how are you feeling right now about where things are trending?
It's interesting because a lot of these, both the PlayStation and Nintendo, I think outside of Pentiment, is one where it's on both the two, Nintendo and PlayStation. And then remember, I believe some are on PS4, but people forgetting about that. There's a huge PS4 base with some of these titles as well. So yeah, out of the first four, I think, man, I still think Hi-Fi Rush would probably be my choice for the next big one. I think that obviously that's PlayStation initially, nothing Switch just yet. I know that'll do great on Switch, but I think even though because they do like their single player games, right? And it's a bespoke art style, unique rhythm. Like I think that may move. I will probably go Grounded next. Obviously it is live service, it is survival, it is what you call it. That was also on Switch. You know what I'm forgetting because like Hi-Fi Rush is PlayStation for now, but we know eventually we'll probably go to Switch at some point. Sea of Thieves was PlayStation for now, right? Nothing on Switch just yet. Grounded on PlayStation. I keep forgetting. Like I know
Grounded's on PlayStation, yeah.
So I know Grounded was announced on Switch at their Direct because that's the show I did with Grub. But I'm trying to remember if we have the stats on Grounded. Is there a PlayStation version of Grounded? Oh, and they're both coming out at the same time?
PS4 and PS5 version, might I add.
Yeah, so now I'll take it back. Grounded gonna be next. Grounded because it's on those platforms.
It's got Switch, yeah, you're right.
It's got Switch and PlayStation and PS4 and is a kind of a cross, multiplayer sandbox survival with a very cool onboarding for guys like me who don't really play survival games like that. I thought that game really did a good job of telling me what's the next thing I got to do, what's the next things you focus on, and then the 4-player co-op. Yeah, you might be right, girl. It might be the one, maybe, yeah. But yeah, it is interesting, and again, we got to see, we get to see short term how these titles are performing on these platforms. But when's that release date for Grounded? I'm just curious again. I forget my mind.
Let's see here.
When's Grounded release date?
Spring. Hold on. Sorry. I was looking at the announcement trailer for Grounded. Hold on. Grounded Switch release date. Give me one sec here. April 16th.
April 16th. Yeah.
Not a month from now.
Not a month from now. So yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely thinking, hey, maybe they're on something, Matty. Maybe they're on something. Yeah. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm still iffy on it. Almost feel like it's a little too soon. It's like a relationship.
They seeing other people.
Yeah, like it's like first base, second base, third. It's like we're moving a little quick, babe. Like let's build for the long term. No.
You see, I think it'll be too quick. Well, not too quick, but it'll be interesting if remember this was like the spring. What if there's a fall drop? Here's the fall lineup.
I'm pretty confident that by the way, no sources or anything. I'm guessing. Like, I feel they got to have something for the fall. Like, that's an easy free holiday win, right? Like, let's just report one of our old games over to PlayStation and Switch. Like, come on. Especially now you're seeing the initial success. And the other thing is success be damned. They're doing it anyway. You don't have to pour it on just one game in the fall. Come on. It makes too much sense.
It'll be interesting to see how aggressive the strategy is. I will say that.
All I'm saying is if the narrative continues like this, like number one pre-order, look at these numbers.
Oh, they got legs to stand on. Oh,
yeah.
Bro, they're gonna laugh at the hardcore.
Now I just see the interviews and feel, well, we here at Team Xbox, when we started to bring these games over, we were thrilled by the amount of support they received. It's always been our mantra to support, wherever you play, we win, or whatever the fuck he says. Yeah,
that's going to be everywhere.
Yeah. He's gonna do a Peter Moore and tattoo that on his arm.
Phil gonna bust out the we all play win shirt. Oh, tattoo, it's going down. Yeah, like they would look justified if these type of numbers keep coming out. That's a great. It's early. It's not a definitive stat, but it's a great early indicator. Pre-order, right?
Yep. Yeah. Dude.
Number one.
I realize now, for those who don't know, by the way, a little behind the scenes here for how our show works.
Yes.
So we've been trying to figure out this whole timestamp thing because like Dustin and Ben used to do the timestamps. They no longer do those. It's on us to do them now. We have to do them mid-show. And so what I was originally doing was writing the time at the top clock on the left of Zencaster every time we change segments. That was kind of like a little bit of a distraction. But now Dustin's like, no, use these footnotes section. It timestamps it automatically in Zencaster. It works great. I'm like, okay, cool. The mistake I was afraid of making is they have the chat section, the footnote section side by side. They look the same. And so for our first section here, I wrote it in the chat, like Sea of Thieves is #1 pre-order for PSN. Who knows when the fuck it starts? And so our next section will be timestamps. So I feel bad because Dustin just always is like, oh, you almost got the timestamps this time, man.
We almost did.
Then I did the timestamps in Zencaster last week, and I did them at the end of each topic. You know, as we were wrapping up, I typed it in, hit enter. He's like, dude, at the beginning. I'm like, fuck. One of these weeks, we'll get it. So anyway, little inside baseball there because I just realized we're off on the timestamps. Do you have any extra thoughts on Sea of Thieves, PSN, more games coming to PlayStation, any of that? Nothing?
No, we got it.
All right. So now we move on to, pardon me, Todd Howard's Fallout 5 comments. So the marketing speak for the Fallout TV show is ramping up now. I made up a word for that, ramping up. I feel like you could throw that in the dictionary and people believe it. It's ramping up though. And, you know, they showed off a new trailer, which looks great. We can talk about that. But one key comment Todd Howard made led to probably the most Matty video I've made in years. So what he said, let's go back a little bit, actually. Jonathan Nolan, one of the executive producers on the show, directors of some of the opening episodes, had said that when it comes to this show, they said we're basically Fallout 5, which I know was designed to instill confidence. Like, hey, we're next in the timeline. And they are. Like, they're canonical. They're the next entry. It's just a show, right? What he said is not incorrect. But that title is reserved for the next video game. And so there's a lot of Fallout fans who were like, okay, relax. We don't got to go there right now. We're not ready for that part of our relationship. I was saying the same thing. I was like, okay, that's going to fly in the face. If you like, this is going to go real bad for you if this show sucks. I'm just going to say that. You called yourself Fallout 5 now. And that's going to just amplify anything that's wrong with it. Because like, now what happens in Fallout 6? So Todd did something that I've never really seen him do before. Got ahead of it, got in front of it, and actually kind of shut that down mid-interview in a follow-up where they were talking about it. And Todd shut it down saying that pretty much anything the show creators were doing that involved something actually happening with Fallout 5, he said, don't do that because we're going to do that with Fallout 5. Now, the reason this is interesting, that this is where so many people are like, okay, cool, like Todd's involved and there could be overlap here. Ready for the deepest Matty cut? There's this here, baby.
Oh, let's go. I'm ready.
All right. I made a video on this, so I apologize for those who watched. There's going to be overlap. But Bethesda Game Studios historically has made Fallout games on the East Coast. They made Capital Wasteland in Fallout 3, Commonwealth in Fallout 4. Where's the Fallout TV show set? West Coast. Mm-hmm. Why is there going to be overlap, Todd? What's going on? Where's there going to be overlap? Because I'm just saying the TV show is right now interfacing with a lot of Fallout 1 content. We see Shady Sands, nuked, by the way, when it was a capital for the NCR in Fallout 2. See the NCR in Rags, which you did not see them in Fallout New Vegas like that. They were much more powerful, more prominent. And so you're kind of seeing almost a resetting of the lore in the West right now. And when Todd's saying, hey, don't do that, we're going to do that in Fallout 5. What it suggests to me is they're looking to make a Fallout game on the West Coast next, which would be very different for them. Now, it doesn't stop there. This is where I go a layer deeper. This is where I think you really get the Matty cut.
Deep cut.
So I immediately thought of one of my favorite quests in Fallout 4. It's called the Cabot House quest line. Or actually, that's not the name of it, but it is a quest line based around the Cabot House, which is this family that's lived for generations. And at the center of it all is this artifact that has let Lorenzo Cabot live for 400 years. Now, at the end of the good ending, I should say, when you speak to Jack Cabot, who can be like one of your optional companions in the game, he says something along the lines of, like you ask him, like, what's next for you? And it's not like a little side piece. It is the final line in the entire quest. And he says, perhaps I'll go southwest finally to the to an ancient city that's buried in the Mojave Desert, setting of Fallout New Vegas, might I add. And a lot of people, when I made a video on that, when I first finished that quest, I was like, oh, they're teasing shit. Like, I know Bethesda games. I know them. I said, they are teasing shit. People are like, it's just a cheeky nod. But then I see, here we have a show in the West, Bethesda telling you not to do certain things within the TV show because they will be done in Fallout 5, and your last Fallout game teased something out in the West. Okay, Matty, you're galaxy braining. Well, then I look at Fallout 3. Fallout 3 had a side quest line called The Replicated Man. And in the Replicated Man quest line, they teased everything about Fallout 4. Everything. The synths, the android. They teased the Commonwealth. They teased the themes of the game. Everything. And if you look at Fallout 3, Fallout 4, there is a growing mythos in those games surrounding like Dunwich horror. And at the heart of it is this Cabot House side quest line, which has this device that lets someone live for hundreds of years. And you're talking about an alien city buried in the Mojave, which no other game has addressed. And now you're telling me that with your Fallout TV show set in the West Coast, something that you've teased information about in a prior game, something that you've done so much so that you built an entire game around that quest line, that you had to stop the creators from doing certain things because it may interfere with what you plan to do. I'm telling y'all, do not fall behind. When we're here in 2037 talking about Fallout 5, I will be running laps around you all, laughing on how I told you where Fallout 5 was going to be set. Just right now, I'm not saying the Mojave, but the West Coast for sure. And this also could just be setting up something for Obsidian to pursue in the inevitable Fallout New Vegas 2. Still, I found this to be most fascinating, my own discoveries. And Cog, I'm curious what you think on the matter. So please, fire away. And of course, if you have any thoughts on the Fallout TV show trailer, the second one they showed up, let me know.
Trailer, I didn't get that. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. They've got the essence of this thing down. Yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say. Like it's starting to get that feel like, yo, they doing it. They actually are exceeding expectation. Like, this is crazy. So I'm hyped. So I just to see your excitement before it was crazy. So yeah, I'm there. But I don't really got too much to add because I think you're onto something. I really do think you're onto something. The fact that I remember that quest and I remember them kind of foreshadowing Sense and all of that stuff. And then lo and behold, Fallout 4 came and, had a lot of that energy. So there could be a correlation here where Todd is just like, slow down, buddy, and for him to insert himself into that. And I like the idea of him kind of taking away like, yo, you not exactly Fallout 5, bro. Like, let's say that for us creatively, and you're going to have your own spin on it, but, have maybe you're in general proximity or whatever it is, however they're doing it. But I think there's some truth to what you're saying. I think that Bethesda's had this way of having these layers within the layer kind of thing. And it's possible. It's possible. So I'm going to hold you to that. I think that's a strong theory. I'm going to definitely hold you to that. I think that there's a lot of truth that could be there to it. We're going to see how this thing plays out. But overall, for this whole series, I'm super excited. I like that, again, the movie may share a few things, but I want Fallout 5 to have its own thing. Because again, like you said, if there's decisions made in the movie that we like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want that to be a one-to-one reflection of what the game that you're going to get is going to be, right? You want this to feel like a new experience. You want this to feel completely different. So yeah, I'm with you there.
The big question really lies in like, no one knows where the story's going. Like, you kind of have this general setup that you have a vault dweller who's leaving the vault, being experienced this whole new world, a Brotherhood of Steel Knight, or a scribe, actually, I believe he was, that is on a quest for vengeance, and a former pre-war television star, now turned ghoul bounty hunter. And then you have the Brotherhood attacking the remnants of the NCR, and seemingly something in the middle of it that they're all chasing, which I remember there was like one shot in the first trailer, which was like some kind of briefcase that had serums in it that you see in the second trailer. The ghoul is drinking, and there seems to be almost like a Fallout 3 sort of storyline of like, you're looking for the Gek, the infamous Gek, which was like buried in this vault in Fallout 3. You had to have Fawkes go and get, but that's the interesting part is I don't know what the goal is. Like, are you telling a story and that's it? Are you setting up something for Fallout 5? Are you setting something up for New Vegas 2? Are you just like, what is the goal here? Because each Fallout game is like a baton pass. Like, you don't necessarily see a very direct setup to any Fallout game. But for example, Arthur Maxson is in Fallout 3. This is another reason why I say Bethesda's writers are way more crafty than people give credit to. Because I know they're not like the best written lines of dialogue. I think Starfield's well written, but like, I know it's not like the best dialogue. Like, it drips off the page like an Obsidian game like KOTOR 2. Like, still some of the best writing in a video game I played. But in Fallout 3, Arthur Maxson is this little 10-year-old boy. And you can like read his terminal, get his backstory, learn all about him. And then he's the leader of the Commonwealth Brotherhood in Fallout 4. Like, that's the type of storytelling they do that they're really good at. And so I look at that, and since Bethesda Game Studios is executive producing this show, I'm like, all right, what are you guys going to set up in this show that you can then carry down the timeline with Fallout 5 or New Vegas 2, whomever picks up the baton next? Like, each ending is a baton pass. Like, Project Purity in Fallout 3 isn't just this thing that happens. Just like, I don't think the synths and their reach and their threat to humanity, if you will, like, not in the, well, it could be in the typical sense, but like their literal threat to humanism, like being able to recognize one person from another and determine if they're a synth or not. These themes aren't things that just disappear. Like, each Fallout game typically builds off the last. Like, Fallout New Vegas is built square off of Fallout 1, 2, and some of your familiarity with 3. Particularly 1 and 2's lore it interfaces with on a deeper level. So I'm just curious where the show's going with everything, because there's got to be stuff left to be set up for down the timeline further. But more than anything is like, as a Fallout freak, I'm watching them kind of reset the West, which to me reads like setting the table for something beyond the TV show, especially when the NCR was in such a powerful position in New Vegas, and like now they're weak, or at least they look weak in the show. The question is like one of two things. Either what are you guys setting up for, like, to basically capitalize on top of the Brotherhood of Steel? Like, who's going to be stronger than them? Or two, which is equally as likely, unfortunately, Bethesda loves the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is a sick faction, but they love the Brotherhood of Steel. Clearly. Yeah. They are on the cover of Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Like, Bethesda loves the Brotherhood. I would argue they love them too much, and I'm worried that they are going to have them stomp out everybody. Because the NCR is a really powerful faction, and they were in a strong spot, and somehow they are really weak now. I don't know how many years it is after New Vegas, but it's 9 years after Fallout 4. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about things here. And that's my main concern with the story is, as a Fallout lore freak, I'm like, look, I'm not one of those, I call them the lore Bible beaters, where I'm like, this power armor shouldn't be in this point in the time. I'm like, I can forgive that. But I'm like, look, you spent you have to respect the heritage. Like, Fallout 1, Shady Sands was a small village. Fallout 2, it's a city, pretty much. It's a capital now. In New Vegas, NCR is the law and order. How do you just erase that? What happened? Why is Shady Sands a crater now? That's fascinating stepping in, but if the answer isn't good, it's a really dangerous ploy. So we'll see, but nonetheless excited for the show.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's good. Good deep cut. Good catch.
All right. Thank you for hyping me up there, bro. I appreciate you.
Oh, you killed that.
Game Pass pick of the week time, sir. You are up. What do you have for us?
Yeah, man. This is a very, very hot off the presses new edition. I didn't even realize it because I was looking at my Game Pass pick. I was like, I had something else in mind, but then I was like, wait a minute. Something just dropped as of recording yesterday. And it was something that I missed out on last generation. I never got a chance to play. I know we've been talking about Alan Wake and all that stuff, but I never got a chance to play Control. Never got a chance. And at the time, past generation, framey issues.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm good. This game seemed a little bit too advanced for what they was going on. And I've heard mixed things. I heard some people who absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard some people like, nah, it's a little overrated, whatever. So I stayed away. Then apparently there was an Ultimate Edition, which also had its fair share of controversy, which is now in the Game Pass thing. So the Ultimate Edition, from my understanding, is just all of the expansions, all the things in one with an upgrade pass. But apparently at the time they were charging like the 70, 80. There wasn't no smart delivery for this. They were charging the full on, and they ain't really add.
I remember that was a huge deal. Yeah.
Huge deal. Because shout out to ACG, because I remember I think he had a video on it one time. He destroyed the practice.
That was a funny video because it was like 5 minutes of him tearing into it, and then the tone shift at the end. He's like, that's all I got for you today. Like, you enjoyed some. I was like, damn, bro. He just flipped the switch.
He killed that. I was like, yo, because I wanted to know what was the big deal, but that's what it was. They just literally bundled it, repackaged, and say, hey, and so what if you already bought it? You're buying it again. And I was just like, oh man, that. So luckily, I've been clear of all of this. This is a brand new experience for me, and it's in Game Pass. So I'm like, all right, let me fire it up. So first thing I noticed off the back, you got your two modes. You have your graphics, I believe, with ray tracing, 30 frames, and then you got your performance, which I believe is like a 1440 60. I ain't gonna front, Matty. That performance mode, that 60 was nice. That 60 was nice. It was smooth. Now, again, I don't know if it's because of the OLED situation, because I got the VRR, whatever. It was nice. So I started that moving around. So basically, long and short of it, she seemed to be, a person with a very interesting checkered past from some type of spiritual thing or whatever power that she has. You're investigating, which seems like an FBI style building, it's Federal Bureau of Control, and the kind of game starts like that. And I played for I got about 5-6 hours in on it, and this is what I will say: the story at its core still is a little nonsensical to me. I know it's one of these, it's the great mystery. You're going to figure out, we're going to do all the layers. I get what they're trying to do with that. But what kept me in it was actually something that me and you both like, was actually the, how you talk about in what you call it games, while like Dishonored and stuff like that, like the arcade games will have like these notes lying around, and you read. Like, this game is all about the collectibles, about the notes you read, and it's filling in the mystery of this story, this bureau, why she's here, how they treat this. It's this type of building that manifests itself, but you can't always find it in the real world. It's basically like these alternate reality linking kind of things, and then you start to read how shiesty this organization is. If anybody coming through the front desk and they asking normal questions, all right, just shoot them off and say, this is, you're going to trespass, you're not supposed to be here. But if they keep digging and asking, take them into the redacted room and redact them. And I was like, yo, what's going on? This is some shady business going on. So I will say that the tone of, I'm sorry, you say something?
No. I was like, damn, okay. Like, no, I'm invested.
Yeah. So like the tone of the game is cool. The atmosphere is cool. Being in a pseudo, I don't want to say haunted, but very weird feeling federal building is a nice setting. Like, it's really uneasy. Then you start to get into the enemies and what's going on. And this is where the game starts to shine for me. The combat. Because you get your little spectral gun, you got your upgrades, you got mods you could do to it, and the enemies kind of come at you. But when it really starts to open up is you start to get the telekinesis joint powers. And you could throw basically anything in the game becomes an object to use as a weapon. So you walk past a drum, you walk past a phone, a terminal, a computer screen, anything you look at, you'll see the silhouette light up. Oh, that's interactable. So the entire game becomes interactable, right? So that, I was like, okay. And the combat was pretty smooth and cool. And I'm like, yo, this is dope. So far, it's early. I want to see how this story plays out. But it's giving me, I don't want to go too extreme. It's giving me a little bit of Death Stranding nonsensical vibes with certain things with the story. So I got to see if this story really lives up to the billing. But this whole bureau, this dead director, and you're going to be the new director, and this going from one plane of reality to another plane of reality, these crazy flashbacks, the lighting in the game is excellent. When you traverse the federal building and you're in these sectors, there's zones that are cut off that they're like illuminated in all red. It gives this very dark feel. You hear all these unsettling voices and things like that. So it creates enough horror and tension for you to keep going. And like I said, the upgrade system, I thought the save system is very fair. When you exploring and you find something, it kind of remains that. They seem to have boss battles, encounters, and stuff like that. The weapon system seems pretty cool. Okay. So right now, COG is a fan. Right, COG is a fan. I'm going to play this out. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. Now you could tell it's still a dated game that's just probably up-res, you know what I'm saying, on certain things as far as the faces and stuff like that. But so far, I'm digging the character because you know what I like about her? This is the last thing I'll say. While she's trying to figure out, she got her own agenda. I'm trying to figure out why she's here because she's not totally being honest. While she's helping and freeing individuals in this building, right? When she has conversation, be like, all right, Matty doesn't know about me. Do I tell him about? No, let's play this game. Like she talks to herself about how, whether or not she's going to be honest with the people she interacts with, which I think is really cool. So again, so far so good. You know, I'm gonna keep rocking. Probably about 4 or 5 hours, probably like stage 5 or 6 or whatever I'm at. Okay. But and then the game has all like these training modes when they give you new abilities, they let you kind of learn, implement them in this kind of like pseudo bureau training thing, and it's actually pretty cool. It's like you're in the Matrix or something. It's a very distinct art style game, and I think that's what's keeping me in the atmosphere and the combat right now.
Nice. So yeah, I'm curious how you enjoy it by the end with the story, just because I know I feel people really liked the game and even enjoyed its story, but it really wasn't until I think Alan Wake 2 that you started to see these threads where there was this collective industry understanding of like, oh, it's a Remedy verse, like, oh, this is all kind of connecting. So I'm curious to get your thoughts when you finish that and if you'll want to hop into Alan Wake 2 at any point in time. Because for me, like with Remedy, obviously I played Max Payne and whatnot, but I played Alan Wake once and I haven't played Control. I haven't played Alan Wake 2. And it's like, I know these are great games just kind of waiting for me.
Yeah, same.
And you know, they're making games that, by the way, like I can't even use my open world excuse. Like these are AAA linear story focused
linear
games
story stages. That's what that's what kept me in it. I was like, okay, yeah, it ain't 1,000 things on the map. I ain't got to do. All right, I could just. And now, granted, in these maps and these kind of hub world of this building, spiritual building, so to speak, what I like that they do though is there's certain things that are locked off. They reward backtracking with useful things that can upgrade and help your character. You know what I mean? So little things they're doing right now. I gotta see if it wears on me. But I'm really in it because what you said too. One, I missed out Game Pass. Two, Alan Wake got such rave reception. And when I found out from the Alan Wake guys, shout out to my man Randall, though he's an Alan Wake dude, and Solve as well, that they were like, yo, these universes are like, I'm like, oh, okay. So good choice of you, Control, for throwing yourself in Game Pass and getting that little bag. Seems like the relationship with Xbox seems to be improving. Because remember, people were worried after Quantum Break that maybe it fell off, but no, it's there. So far, so good.
Well, that's a great Game Pass pick of the week, Control, y'all. Go check it out. One more question, and then that's it for the episode. We got a write in here from Nick Amato. Hey guys, 32-year-old gamer here. Am I the only one left wondering and disappointed by the length of time between sequels of some of my favorite games? GTA 6 is 12 years. Skyrim is a minimum 14 years. BioShock is minimum 12 years. Even Mass Effect Andromeda has been 7 years already. That's a crazy stat, by the way. I don't need to hear that, bro. I remember being at like PAX East trying to get into the multiplayer for that thing. And that's like 7 years ago. What?
Jesus, yeah.
It just feels crazy to me. I played Skyrim when I was 20, and I might not play the sequel until I'm 40. What gives? And I think there's something to be said about this, because I know development times have stretched out, but the part of what I think fueled some of these series was like knowing you'd get like 3 Uncharted games in a generation, or you'd get 2 Batman games in a generation, or 3 BioShock games in a generation. Like stories bridged across a generation instead of now, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, PS4, Rebirth, PS5. Even if they do another 4 years, it's possible whatever they do for the next Final Fantasy VII Remake is PS6. It's like, dang, man, like these games are taking so long that you have to wait so long for stories to be truly entirely complete. That's part of the investment in any entertainment. But what do you make of some of the waits we have for games that have needed sequels for a long while? Particularly, of course, Skyrim's a famous one, GTA another one. So what do you make of some of these, Cog?
Yeah, it just seems like we got to be honest too. Like the games that are those genre defining, those critically acclaimed, those games of the generation, those seem to be the ones that seem to be included on this list. I mean, you talk about GTA. I mean, do we need to say any more as far as the level of quality, the level of detail that they put into their worlds, and how interactive we know Skyrim is literally considered one of the goats of gaming and the Western RPG and everything that comes with that. BioShock, another one, an absolute classic. So I think the legends in the game, they know the importance of their vision, and not saying I'm justifying taking that long to make games, but can we really get mad at the end result, right? And we get mad at that. If the end result is going to be that, then yeah. But of course, look, selfishly, of course, do I want like 2 or 3 a generation? Absolutely. So I don't know if it's a production issue or a perfection issue where it's just, the level of perfection and stuff needed. Because I believe what's homie that's coming out with the game now? Was it Levine, right? That's coming out with the new joint. He's been taking a while, and they threw a bag at him. They were like, "Yeah, take your time. Whenever we know what you do, right?" Yeah. So it was that kind of energy. So that's what it is. That it sucks that like, man, this generation, man. When am I get the next Elder Scrolls? Right there, it's gonna be now. My time clock ain't that long. I'm getting up there. I'm saying I will be 60 playing these joints. What I'm saying? But listen, it does suck that we can't get more of them in a shorter time. But when the games are of that high quality, I get it. And that's why there's that there's levels to this, right? There's that step above that when those games come out, So that's what I got at it. But I feel your pain, Nick. I feel your pain. But what about you?
Yeah, there's definitely some egregious examples. Like, I think Skyrim should have got a sequel much quicker. Like, I say that even as a diehard Fallout fan, like that game earned its sequel. And I know there was no doubt it was going to be another Elder Scrolls game, but it deserved a sequel way sooner. Like, people showed up en masse to support that game, and instead they got a bunch of re-releases. And I think if you just, I know it's an easy answer, but I really do think if you just unplug Fallout 76 and plug in Elder Scrolls 6, you have a whole different outlook on Bethesda Game Studios and whatnot. But for some of these developers, I mean, they've been in the industry so long. They're familiar with the technology. They know its limitations and what they can eventually do. That, like, sticking with the Elder Scrolls 6 example, because that's the one I'm most familiar with, like, Todd had said, like, the reason they waited on ES6, like, they wish they didn't have to wait so long, but they have this vision of what that game's going to be. And they're like, I remember during the PS4 generation, where people were saying, like, hey, these consoles are pretty powerful. Like, look how much juice you got out of them. And Todd was even saying that. He's like, yeah, technology is not where we need it to be to do what we want to do with Elder Scrolls 6. And then when you look at Starfield, you wonder what they're going to try to do, which I think is going to create all of Tamriel. That's my guess. That's kind of like the magnum opus moment for Elder Scrolls 6 before Todd rides off into the sunset. That's just my guess. But I think the ambitions are rising. Like, GTA 6 is going to be positively massive and dense. And you're right, Cog, that the end result sometimes speaks for itself. Mass Effect is like an example, though, of, I think, getting too big. Yeah. Like, you didn't need to make a big game with super open-endedness and tons of content. Like, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 thrived on being these very tight 30-hour games, which is a long game, but that's doable. And that's with, like, everything in tow. Some being, like, you could throw more time maybe in, like, Mass Effect 3 if you did the multiplayer and everything, but longevity used to be found elsewhere. Now these products are so big because they're packing everything into a single world. And I do think I've experienced it myself, so I have to imagine that these bigger companies have, is like, feature creep is a real thing. Feature creep, content creep is a real thing, because once you get your tools up and running, there is that very drunk with power feeling you get, like, oh, I can throw together one more quest and I could put it right here. And then we got to fine tune that. We got to bug test that. And then, like, does it really add something to the product? And so, Yeah, like I could see a moment where like they think they're done and then they continue to add. That's why I think deadlines are super important. Like we're done adding content for our game come December this year. Like we're not trying to make a massive game. I mean, given our team size, of course, but I don't know how strictly these are enforced in AAA and how fluid they are. I mean, because you got people like, for us, it's a little easier to draw those deadlines because we all wear different hats. But for them, they have people who are like dedicated to building quests. So they just build, and then hope the bug testers and QA catch all the rest, right? So I think that could be how it spirals a bit and why things take so long, because it's like you build so much and then all of a sudden you hand it to QA. It's like, well, we got a bug list X miles long and we got to go through and stomp all this out. Now we need more time. And then as the game grows, more bugs introduce themselves. So I think it's a product of that too, potentially, if I were to wager a guess. And so it's frustrating, but I think it's helped the industry in a way. It kind of leads to us exploring indies inspired by these games, which like maybe I wouldn't have done if they were just pumping these things out constantly, or would I have got sick of them? I think it's easy to look at it from one angle and just be like, oh man, there are some, again, like Skyrim being, I think, the worst of them all. Like a game of that success, not seeing a sequel for over 20 years
that's wild.
Is going to be crazy. But yeah, I do think it's led to us being able to explore some new genres, some new games, that sort of thing, that maybe I wouldn't have, because I definitely, as a kid especially, I was a man of, or a boy of a few pleasures, if you will. So like when I had a game I liked, that was it for a while. For a long while.
I lived in that joint.
Yeah, you just live in there and you replay. That's why, I mean, I think part of the reason I fell in love with KOTOR so much, not only do I think it's a phenomenal game to this day, but like it's the only thing I played for like 2-3 years, dude. Like I'm not even kidding. Like I'd play occasionally something different in between, but KOTOR got ran through a bajillion times, man. Like
you love it.
Yeah, right. So I just feel like perspective is needed here, Nick. It's gonna be okay. You're going to get a new, embrace what you know what has helped me with weights. The last thing I'll say is embracing the sub series, if you will, that these developers do. Like I love BioWare and I do love Mass Effect the most, but I do love Dragon Age. And because it's BioWare, even though, fantasy is not always my cup of tea, I'm going to play because it's a new BioWare game, right? I'm going to play Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I'm really excited for that. Even if Mass Effect is the one I prefer. So maybe the Mass Effect wait, in my head, it doesn't feel as long because I'm getting something from BioWare, hopefully this year. So that'll be exciting. So maybe look at it that way. It's still not Mass Effect, but, you got Mass Effect Legendary Edition a couple of years ago. So there's that too. I'm sure you've already played that.
Yeah.
All right, Cog.
Yo.
That's it for our questions. It's time to wrap this thing up, sir.
Yeah.
You got a hashtag for this week?
What we doing? I know one was suggested to me because of my Kazuya play, but I don't know if I'm rocking with you on that.
How about
let me see.
DD pre-order.
Pre-order DD. Oh, okay. We're going straight to the space. Okay, yeah. Pre-order DD. Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that. You got to pre-order us.
Yeah.
So we
pre-order
can be
us on
one.
Patreon.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So if everyone got this deep, go ahead. Use the hashtag preorderDD. You can fire away on Twitter. I am at G7status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. You tag us there again, hashtag preorderDD. Otherwise, comment section is just fine. Hashtag preorderDD. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, positive or negative. We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Other than that, Cog, any closing thoughts, any closing words to the realm of the Dukes before we're out of here? And we're back with episode 168 next week.
Yeah. Another good one in the realm of the Dukes. Love the questions. Again, good vibe. Nice quiet before the calmness, the eye of the storm heats back up again. There's always something crazy. So this is a good, classic, light, not too crazy the news this week.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you next week for episode 168 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.